We are live for week 11. Let's go. Going to be a great Sunday. A lot of exciting games to talk through today. I got my top 15 rankings as always, every single position on the YouTube live. We're going to be live for the next 3.5 hours or so. Going to be a beautiful Sunday, guys. Feeling very good about today. Already seeing some comments in the YouTube live. Shout out to everyone already in the TikTok live as well. We're just getting started. I've been up all morning prepping for this live. A lot to go through today. Definitely some new names in my top 15 rankings list this week. Again, who's ready for Dameon Pierce to run for 200 plus yards? I think Dameon Pierce, again, is locked in for 20 plus touches. One of the few guys you can say that about in the NFL, and he doesn't have the best matchup this week, though. The Commanders have allowed the 5th fewest yards per game to running backs this season. They've been 26th against receivers. I still think Dameon Pierce, though, must start as a 20-plus touch player. Slayton, Moore, or Wilson. Shout out to Benjamin Walker in the TikTok live, TikTok subscriber there. I don't know which Moore we're talking about here. I'm assuming it's Elijah Moore and Garrett Wilson that you're talking about. If it's Rondale Moore, I think I'd go Rondale Moore over Garrett Wilson this week. If it's Elijah Moore, I do feel a sneaky good Elijah Moore game coming, but there's too much risk, I think, to be starting Elijah Moore at this point. Lamar Jackson or Justin Fields. Yes, if you come to the YouTube live, you can see my top 15 rankings, every position, linked to the YouTube lives right in the TikTok bio. And I do have Justin Fields ranked ahead of Lamar Jackson this week. I love I do love me some Lamar Jackson, and I have Lamar Jackson in a lot of leagues. And it's a good matchup for Lamar Jackson this week. The Panthers' run defense is not very good, has not been very good this season. They've been okay against rushing quarterbacks, not amazing, not terrible. You got to like Lamar Jackson in the spot this week, but I think you got to ride. You got to keep riding Justin Fields. I have him ranked number 3 this week. Only guys I have ahead of him are Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, and then it's Justin Fields. He gets the Falcons this week, guys. We haven't seen the Falcons play a running quarterback yet, but you got to feel really good about Justin Fields continuing to go at this pace. There's not really a better player you could have. Hunt or Murray for flex, or Latavius Murray. Yeah, I'd go Kareem Hunt over Latavius Murray. I want nothing to do with Latavius Murray. One guy I do want a lot to do with this week, though, is Isaiah Pacheco. Got an interesting one here on YouTube from Jaden. Isaiah Pacheco or Elijah Mitchell. I'm starting Isaiah Pacheco, man. I feel really good about him this week. He's coming off a career high, 16 carries last week. I think he set a record for snap share last week as well. He got the starting running back role before the bye week for the Chiefs. Yeah, he did. He set a career high 58% of the snaps last week for Isaiah Pacheco, 16 carries. He also ran 16 routes, though. That was also one of the more intriguing aspects of his game last week. He didn't catch a single pass, but he ran 16 routes. That was the most he's run in a game this season. He had 82 scoreless yards in week 10 against the Jaguars. And this week, guys, he gets the Chargers, who's have the second best run defense for running backs this season. They've allowed the second most yards per game to running backs. So feeling really good about Isaiah Pacheco this week. I do think he is a must start. This week, I'm starting him over Elijah Mitchell for sure. Here's my running back rankings. I actually do think you will see Isaiah Pacheco in these running back rankings. Boyd or Tony, I'll pull up my wide receiver rankings. They're actually both in my top 15 wide receiver list this week. There's a lot of buys for the receivers this week, but I do like Boyd and Tony a decent amount. Isaiah Pacheco or Foreman. I'd go Pacheco over Foreman. MVS or Garrett Wilson. I mean, with all the injuries to the Chiefs, I'm okay going MVS there. I'm nervous for Garrett Wilson this week. Garrett Wilson did really well against the Pats just a couple weeks ago, but it's very rare for the Pats to get beat the same way twice. I am pretty nervous for Garrett Wilson. There's also some potential wind in that game between New England and New York. That game is in Foxborough in New England. I'm a little bit nervous about the wind in that game too. I do think that can make it even tougher for Zach Wilson. We already know he struggles against the Pats. Kadarius Toney, Deontay Johnson, or AJ Brown. We do appreciate first names here. There's a lot of Johnsons. There's a lot of Browns. But I do think you got to go AJ Brown if that's AJ Brown. If that's Marquise Brown, though, I'd go Kadarius Toney. Toney or Pacheco. I'm going Toney over Pacheco, though. Yeah, I feel better about Toney than I do Pacheco this week. Start Pat's D. Yeah, of course you got to start Pat's defense. Let me put my wide receiver rankings on the YouTube live. Again, we're live on TikTok and YouTube. On the YouTube live, you can see my top 15 rankings, every single position. Link is in the TikTok bio. Any updates on Hollywood Brown? Thinking of starting Rondale Moore or Devontae Smith. There's no updates on Hollywood Brown, and we're not going to get one because they're playing Monday night. I don't think he's going to play, though. And I think that's a pretty safe assumption that this week Marquise Brown is not going to play. He's definitely ahead of the timeline I was expecting. I would be pretty surprised to see him back this week, though it does seem at least possible. James Conner or Ayuk. Ayuk has been the leading receiver for the 49ers the last couple of weeks. It's tough to expect that to stay the case with Deebo Samuel, obviously healthy. I don't see Ayuk leading this team in receiving every single week like he has been the last couple of weeks. And James Conner's coming off a game where he got a lot of usage. It's not a good matchup for James Conner. He's playing a very good 49ers defense this week. But guys, James Conner played 95% of the snaps last week. That was the most in the NFL. It was the highest snap share of any running back in the NFL, 95%. For James Conner last week. He didn't have the best matchup last week. He was playing the Rams. He had 21 carries, 3 catches, 24 total touches, 86 yards, 2 TDs. He was the number 3 running back last week. It's tough to bench James Conner right now. I don't think you should be benching James Conner. Good morning, Sam. Start Boyd or DJ at flex. I also have Higgins, though. Yeah, you got to go Boyd over DJ. Boyd is in 100% a better spot than DJ this week. I know the matchup on paper is pretty good for DJ Moore against the Ravens. He certainly has starting upside. Like, you can start him in a lot of spots, but I'm not starting him over Boyd. I have Boyd in my top 15 wide receivers this week, just like I do have Kadarius Toney in my top 10. I think Boyd comes in at number 15 for me, but yeah, he has a really high floor. This is the thing with Tyler Boyd and why I like him so much in season-long fantasy. The floor is really, really high for Tyler Boyd. Swift or Patterson? Yeah, I would lean towards Patterson over Swift. I don't feel good about Swift at this moment. GM, good morning, Sam. Hope you're doing well on this amazing Sunday morning. Also, really appreciate you for all my fantasy lineups each week. It's time for a much-needed run. Pick 2, Thielen, MVS, Zeke, Jamal, and Slayton. Zeke's back. Guys, Zeke is back. I'm pretty nervous about – I'll pull up my tight end rankings in a sec, see that on the YouTube comments. I'm pretty nervous about Tony Pollard this week. I don't feel great about Zeke either. It's going to be interesting to see how he looks on that knee. It feels like it could be very similar to what it was like down the stretch for Zeke last season, where he really was a shell of himself and he had no real upside in fantasy because he just didn't have that burst. He really looked very inefficient down the stretch last season with an injured knee. Could be a similar situation this year, though. They gave him a few games to get back, so he could easily lead this team in carries this week. So that's why it's sort of a stay away situation for me this week between Pollard and Zeke, because it's also not a great matchup against the Vikings. The Vikings have allowed the 5th fewest fantasy points per game to running backs this season. So on top of the meddled mess between Zeke and Pollard, we also know that the Vikings defense has been pretty good against running backs this season. They've allowed the 5th fewest fantasy points per game. They've allowed the 3rd fewest yards per game. Will Mark Andrews play? If not, do I go Dulcich? I do think Mark Andrews is going to play, which means you have to start Mark Andrews. I have him as my number 2 tight end this week, but I do like Greg Dulcich. I think Greg Dulcich is probably my favorite DraftKings tight end of the day. And with Jerry Jeudy out, we also have KJ Hamler out. Even Kendall Hinton is questionable to play. He's the next guy up for the Broncos. Courtland Sutton, Greg Dulcich, I like them both a lot against the Raiders. Raiders defense has been crumbling of late. Higbee or Dulcich? Yeah, so I have Higbee 1 spot ahead of Dulcich. It's close. It's not a great matchup for Higbee, but we know Cooper Kupp just went down. He was averaging 11 targets per game. Where are those targets going to go? I do think some of them will go to Higbee. So you got to rank Higbee, I think, as a top 10 tight end pretty confidently this week. But yeah, I have him 1 spot ahead of Dulcich. Hey, Sam, huge week for a possible playoff spot. Brian Robinson or Harris, also Pickens or Skowronek. Yeah, I'm not starting Skowronek. Don't get me started on the Skowronek stuff. I get it. I was saying on my Thursday night live, someone asked who was the biggest benefactors of the Cooper Kupp injury. My response was Tyler Higbee and Ben Skowronek. But I'm still not answering. I'm still not going to be telling you to start Ben Skowronek. I'm definitely starting Pickens over him. I'd start Brian Robinson over Harris as well. Yeah, no need to spam. No need to spam in the YouTube live. Hey, Sam, Ayuk or Patterson, half PPR. Yeah, I think I would go Patterson with this one. I'm definitely a little bit nervous for Cordero. It was a sketchy game for him last week. He didn't touch the ball nearly as much as I was expecting, but it's another good spot for Cordero for the Falcons against a run funnel Bears defense. The Bears secondary has been pretty strong this season. The run defense has been really weak. And we know the Falcons are good at running the ball, but they also have like a 4-man backfield. Even Avery Williams was playing. We obviously know Tyler Algier and Caleb Huntley gets involved too. So they have 4 running backs that are going to play in this game. Tough to see Cordero getting up to the 50% snap share we had seen at the beginning of the season. It's going to be closer to like the 33 to 40% snap share. That does lower his floor and ceiling a decent amount. Slayton, DJ Moore, or Donovan People-Jones? Yeah, I'd go DJ Moore, I think, over Donovan People-Jones, and definitely over Slayton too, even with the Wandale injury. Yeah, so going back, Kylo, to your question here, I think I would go MVS, and I think I'd go Jamal over Slayton, over Zeke, and over Thielen. Picks against the spread. Yeah, let me pull up my picks against the spread on the YouTube live. We actually had a great week against the spread last week. We went, I think, 70% against the spread last week. I'm taking the Jets plus 3.5 against the Patriots. The Jets could easily win this game. I do think the Patriots win, but the Jets have a real shot in this game. They should have won the first matchup. That one was in New York. This one's in New England. So I do understand taking the Pats coming off the bye, but the Jets are also coming off the bye. So I am taking the Jets plus 3.5. Take the Eagles minus 6.5. That might be my favorite spread of the week. By the way, I do think the Eagles are in a very, very big bounce back spot this week. I do think the Eagles are still maybe the most real team in the league. So I do like them a lot this week to cover the 6.5 point spread. They're up against the Colts. I'm still not buying into the Colts being a legitimate team either. I think this spread should be closer to 10, and it's at 6.5. Start 2, Deontay Palmer, Mooney. Yeah, I think I would bench Josh Palmer. I'd go Deontay Johnson, Darnell Mooney. It does look like Keenan Allen and Mike Williams are going to return this week. I'm not trusting Keenan still. Like, I'm not starting Keenan. You can't pay me to start Keenan Allen in this first game back. I really want to see Keenan get out there and play a full game before he's in my starting lineup. So I would be benching Keenan in this situation. I'd probably go with Pollard and Rondale Moore, and I'd bench Swift as well, who's in a kind of a similar spot as Keenan. Like, we can't trust Swift to get out there and get a full workload, even though he's practicing fully, even though he's off the injury report. DeAndre Swift clearly still being limited by the coaching staff, who's scared that he can't stay healthy. He only played 30% of the snaps last week. Even if that goes up to 40%, it's tough to see him getting very much more than 10 touches in the game. So that's definitely a concern for DeAndre Swift. Singletary or Pollard? Yeah, I think I'd go Singletary over Pollard. I think I'd go Gibson over Pollard. I'm nervous for Pollard this week for sure. Again, it's not a good matchup for Pollard. The Vikings have allowed the third fewest yards per game to running backs this season. Plus Zeke is returning, and Zeke is probably going to lead this team in carries right away. So you're already losing half the carries for Tony Pollard. Plus it's a tough matchup. He could easily lose the goal line touches to Zeke in this game too. I'm definitely nervous for Tony Pollard for all those reasons. Hey, Sam, Ramondre Stevenson or Pacheco? Yeah, I like Pacheco, but not more than Ramondre Stevenson. Let me pull up my top 15 running back rankings again. If you come to the YouTube live, again, link to that is in the TikTok bio. You can see my top 15 rankings, every single position. Wi-Fi looks like it's struggling on the TikTok live. Sam, please help. McKinnon or Kyron Williams? Yeah, Cole, we can't start Kyron Williams. You can't do it yourself. Don't start the Rams running backs. Any of them. I know Darrell Henderson, I think, is still in the lead by a decent amount based on last week. But yeah, Kyron Williams played 28% of the snaps. He had one carry. Last week. Are we really about to trot out a guy that had one carry? He did have 6.9 points because he caught 3 passes. But yeah, I'm not in on Kyron Williams at all. Yo, Sam, Broncos D or Jets D? Yeah, I think you got to go Broncos defense against the Raiders. DraftKings lineup. Someone asking for the DraftKings lineup in the YouTube live. I will pull that up. And I'm going pretty bold with the DraftKings lineup this week. This feels like a week to take some risks on DraftKings. That's why I'm going with the Russell Wilson, Cortland Sutton, Josh Jacobs, and Greg Dulcich stack with that Raiders versus Broncos game. Russell Wilson, first of all, they changed the person calling plays for this game. So maybe that will lead to more passing for the Broncos. But on top of that, I mean, this is just a good matchup for Denver. And these two teams have already played. I actually went back and rewatched that game this week. And the Broncos offense played pretty well in that game. The Raiders have allowed the 11th most yards per game to receivers, the 10th most yards per game to quarterbacks this season. They also just have a very condensed target tree today, the Denver Broncos. There's no Jerry Jeudy. There is no KJ Hamler. Even Kendall Hinton is questionable in this game. That should be very concentrated targets for both Cortland Sutton and Greg Dulcich. I like the potential with the run back with Josh Jacobs here as well. I'm also playing Deontay Johnson and Elijah Moore in this lineup. I don't think a single other person other than me is going to be playing Elijah Moore on DraftKings. Elijah Moore has not had a single game over 10 points this season, and I'm still playing him in DraftKings this week because I'm buying a little bit into the reports that we've seen about Elijah Moore over the last couple of weeks throughout their bye week, that he's moving to the slot, that he's out of the doghouse officially, which he's been in the doghouse for the Jets for some time now. I really do think Elijah Moore is more involved this week. I see him getting 5+ targets this week, and nobody else is going to play him, and this is a tournament lineup, so I'm willing to take some risks with Elijah Moore. I'm also playing DJ Moore against the Ravens in this lineup. I liked his price a lot on DraftKings, and I'm paying up for Saquon Barkley, who could easily be the number one running back on any given slate. And you gotta love the matchup for Saquon as well against the Lions. I do like the Giants to beat the Lions in that game. The Lions have been horrible against every single opponent they've played on the defensive side of the ball. I'm also playing the Texans defense against the Commanders. Not fully bought into Heineke either. Is Hopkins playing? We don't know for sure if Hopkins or Kyler Murray are playing yet. They are both questionable. I do think Hopkins plays. I do think Kyler plays, but I'm a little bit more uncertain about Kyler than I am about Hopkins. But both are definitely questionable, and that's not official either way yet. More questions. Dulcich or Conklin PPR? Yeah, I would go with Dulcich over Conklin. I'll pull up my tight end rankings again on the YouTube Live. Again, link to that is in the TikTok bio. If you're watching live on TikTok, you can see my top 15 rankings, every position. Miles Sanders or Deontay Foreman? Yeah, I would lean towards Sanders over Foreman. Hunt or Foreman? I would go Foreman over Hunt. Pickens or Peoples-Jones? Yeah, I think I would go with Peoples-Jones over Pickens, but it's definitely close, and it's not a terrible matchup for Pickens. Actually, I changed my mind there. I'd go Pickens over Peoples-Jones. Pacheco or Singletary? I'd go Pacheco over Singletary. I'd go Pacheco over Antonio Gibson. I do like Isaiah Pacheco a lot today. Again, he plays tonight against the Chargers. The Chargers' run defense has been horrible this season. They rank second worst in the NFL. Second best possible matchup for Isaiah Pacheco, who had a season-high snap percentage, season-high carry total just last week. Good morning, Sam. Do I trade Fields, Barkley, and Davis for Mahomes, T. Higgins, and Pierce? RBs are Barkley, Walker, Kamara. Wow, you have an absolute stacked running back room. I don't like this trade, though. You're giving up Saquon Barkley. I guess you're upgrading a T. Higgins over Gabe Davis, and you're upgrading from Fields to Mahomes, too. But sacrificing Saquon, I guess you're getting Dameon Pierce back. Yeah, I don't love it. I guess you do need some better receivers, but I don't think you need to sacrifice Saquon Barkley to do it. I would try to take Saquon and Pierce out of the trade, see if you can do something more like that. Hey, Sam, Connor or Brian Robinson, and Debo, Tony or Allen Robinson? Yeah, I think Brian Robinson's definitely in play over James Conner this week. It's close. James Conner, I still expect to touch the ball more than Brian Robinson, but in a much, much, much tougher matchup. James Conner gets the 49ers. Brian Robinson gets the Texans. I mean, we're on opposite ends of the spectrum here in terms of matchups. It's like literally the toughest matchup versus the easiest matchup. So I would go with Brian Robinson, I think, for that reason. Then Debo, Tony, or Allen Robinson. I'm playing Kadarius Toney over Debo Samuel this week. It feels very weird to say that out loud. I'm for sure playing him over Allen Robinson, though. 2, I want nothing to do with Allen Robinson. I'm not bought into Allen Robinson, even with the Cooper Kupp news. I think that the Cooper Kupp injury benefits Tyler Higbee, Ben Skowronek, a lot more than it does Allen Robinson. It could even end up hurting Allen Robinson. He's been unable to separate this season, becoming the defense's number one thought. It might not help Allen Robinson. Sam, Michael Carter or Brian Robinson? Yeah, I'd go Brian Robinson over Michael Carter as well. I am a little bit nervous about this Jets-Patriots game being very low scoring. I am playing Elijah Moore on DraftKings because I do think that he's going to be more involved than he has been this week. I see 5+ targets coming for Elijah Moore, but it could be a really low-scoring game between the Jets and the Patriots. There is some wind expected in that game. Let me actually pull up a quick weather report here for you all. Weatherman Sam, part-timing on these Sunday morning lives. There's some important weather, I think, to be aware of today. First of all, the windiest game of the day is supposed to be either the Jets-Patriots game or the Lions-Giants game. There's some wind in the Northeast, and we could see gusts of wind over 25 miles an hour today, and that is a concerning threshold to be passing. That could make it tough for Zach Wilson, Mac Jones, Daniel Jones, and Jared Goff, all to pass the ball today. That is something to monitor. Panthers-Ravens also has potentially some wind gusts over 20 miles an hour. All those games definitely are at risk of being a little more low scoring than people are expecting. Though obviously we know the Ravens going to run the ball a lot either way. All right, let's get to some more of these start sit questions in the live. Boyd or Olave flex non-PPR start JJ and St. Brown. Yeah, I'd still play Olave over Boyd. Yeah, you got to start JJ and St. Brown too. Yeah, I would play Olave over Tyler Boyd. Russell Wilson or Jimmy G or Kyler. My opponent has Sutton. Yeah, I don't think your opponent having Sutton should factor into this decision for you, though. I think you should be just playing the best quarterback that you have. And I think that quarterback is Russell Wilson. I think it is Russell Wilson. I have him ranked, I think, 9th this week. I think I have him ranked maybe 10th. Let's see. 11th. Yeah, I have Russ ranked 11th. This week, it's a good match for Russ. I'm playing him in my DraftKings lineup, too. I do think Russ has a pretty intriguing ceiling against the Raiders. We've already seen him play pretty solid against the Raiders before. 5-star review, Sam. Yeah, thank you, Spencer. Yeah, guys, if you haven't checked out the WalterPicks app yet, you definitely got to check it out on the iOS and Android App Store. It is completely free to download and try out. We're actually running a Black Friday sale in the WalterPicks app right now. This app's going to help you with all your start-sit decisions, any trade decisions. And also, if you subscribe to the Black Friday sale now, it's actually the cheapest you can get the subscription all year, and it will include all of our draft content as well for next year, included in that subscription in the WalterPicks app. Definitely check that out. With the Black Friday sale, it's the cheapest our subscription has been all year. I think it's already a steal at its normal price. So the Black Friday price is even a bigger steal. Palmer or Samuel? Yeah, I think I would go with Samuel over Palmer. It's tough to trust Josh Palmer with Keenan Allen and Mike Williams looking on the right side of questionable, but I'm still not starting Keenan Allen. I'm playing Rondale Moore over Keenan Allen. I don't trust Keenan. We just can't. How can we trust Keenan to play a full game? He hasn't played a full game since week 1 or week 2. It's been a long time since Keenan has been right. He gets a bye week and somehow his hamstring gets worse during the bye week. He tries to come back in the game and somehow mid-game he re-injures that hamstring again. I don't feel great about Keenan Allen. WalterPicks. What happened? Amari or Myers? I think I would go Myers over Amari. Hey Sam, Montgomery or Chubb? Yeah, I would lean Chubb over Montgomery. Keenan or Slayton? Yeah, I can't trust Keenan. I'm not starting Keenan. I won't start Keenan. He could easily have a good game if he plays the whole game. It's just too big of an if, and it's too low of a floor. With Keenan Allen, I'm not starting him. Hey, Sam, pick 2, Gabe Davis, Mike Williams, Kadarius Toney. Yeah, I'm definitely starting Kadarius Toney here, and I think I'd go Gabe Davis over Mike Williams too for sort of a similar reason to Keenan Allen. I do think there's some added risk. Yeah, smash the like button if you're watching live on YouTube. If you're watching live on TikTok, hit the like button as well. It really does help us out a ton. Really appreciate that. We're just getting started on this Sunday morning live. Look forward to these all week, guys. We have many hours left in this live stream. I'll get to every single game. I'll talk about basically every single player at some point on this live. I will try to get to as many start sits as I can, as always. But as a reminder, head over to the WalterPicks app in the iOS Android App Store. If I don't get your start sit question, or even if I do, it's the best place to get some free start sit analysis, and that's on iOS and Android. Sam, you put my question up, then didn't answer. Classic. It's a classic move by me, Spencer. Full PPR pick 2, Devontae, Rondale, Darnell, Isaiah Pacheco, Marquise Brown. Yeah, I would just rock with Deontay Johnson and Isaiah Pacheco here. Darnell Mooney's in a good matchup. Devontae Smith definitely has a really high ceiling this week too, but I really like the floor for Isaiah Pacheco and Deontay Johnson considerably more than all these guys. They're both, I think, locked in for 10-plus points, and I still think they have a reasonable ceiling too. So I like Deontay Johnson. I like Isaiah Pacheco a decent amount this week. Boyd or Pacheco, I would go Boyd over Pacheco. No question. Wanted to say thanks for the content, the lives, the app, all the time. Respect, brother. Thanks, man. Love the positivity. Appreciate that. As always, both positivity, negativity, extremely contagious. Appreciate all the positive people out there. Is Devontae Adams playing today? It does look like Devontae Adams is going to play, but I do think that's not official yet, and he is technically questionable, but it sounds like he's on the right side of questionable from everything that I have read this morning. I do think Devontae Adams is going to play. We got wind gusts up to 20 miles an hour in New England between the New York Jets and the Patriots. That game, definitely something to monitor. It's going to make it even tougher for Zach Wilson, who already struggled against the pass. So he did throw for 350 last time he played the Patriots, but 20-mile-an-hour wind gusts is not going to help. Is Gus Edwards out? It does look like Gus Edwards is going to be out. He's the only guy actually in the out list above me on TikTok that isn't officially out yet, but he's trending towards being out. Sounds like he's on the wrong side of questionable. Start 1, Kmet or Dalton Schultz. Yeah, let me pull my top 15 tight end rankings on the YouTube live. I do think I'd go Dalton Schultz over Cole Kmet. I'm not fully bought into the Cole Kmet hype, and I get that he's gone off in 2 straight weeks, But that doesn't necessarily mean he's going to go off for a third straight week. Cole Kmet, he only ran 15 routes last game. He was the number 2 tight end in week 9. He was the number 1 tight end last week. He has over 100 yards and 4 touchdowns in his last 2 games. He also has 5 touchdowns in his last 3 games. I'm still not buying it though. He's still gone under 10 points in all but 2 games this fantasy season. And a lot of those were under 5 fantasy points. Let's not act like Cole Kmet has like a high floor or anything. We've seen the ceiling obviously the last couple of games, but it could just as likely be a floor outcome, I think, for Cole Kmet today. So I'm not buying into Cole Kmet fully either. Nico Collins or D Smitty. Yeah, I would go Devontae Smith over Nico Collins. Good morning, Sam. Full PPR pick 2, Najee Foreman or Kenyon Drake, assuming Gus is out. Yeah, I am okay. Comfortable assuming Gus is out. I do think Gus will be out. And so, yeah, I think I would go Foreman in Kenyon Drake here. I do like Kenyon Drake against this Panthers team. Najee did get a lot of touches last week. He did have 99 yards, which was his most of the season, but he didn't score a touchdown. And he got hurt on his one long play of the entire season. He now has failed to go under. He's gone under 14 fantasy points in every single game. This is what we say every single week with Najee. Is like, what's the real ceiling for Najee Harris? Have we seen his true ceiling this season? Maybe we have. It was week 2 where he had 89 yards and 5 catches, no touchdowns. He only has 3 touchdowns this season. The offensive line is bad. It's a tough situation all around. Is Njoku and Lamar playing? Zach, no need to spam in the YouTube live. But I do think Lamar is playing, and I do think Njoku is playing as well, though I'm more confident about Lamar playing than Njoku. I don't have a FanDuel lineup, but I do have a DraftKings lineup for you all. Here is my DraftKings lineup up on the YouTube live. Again, if you're watching live on TikTok, come to the YouTube live. Link is in the TikTok bio. Rondale Moore or Gabe Davis. Yeah, I'd lean towards Gabe Davis over Rondale Moore, especially with Kyler potentially injured. I know Rondale did well without Kyler last week, but I do feel better about Gabe Davis's ceiling than Rondale Moore's ceiling this week. Heineke or Carr? I actually think I have Heineke ranked ahead of Carr. I think I do. I think I have Heineke ranked ahead of Carr, which is pretty brutal, but it's a tough matchup for Derek Carr against the Broncos defense. Mike Williams or Kenyon? That one's close. I mean, that's a floor ceiling decision. I think I would go with Kenyon Drake over Mike Williams personally. I think the floor is much higher for him, but definitely risky. Would you start Kyren Williams? No, I'm not starting any of the Rams running backs. All right, let's get to your DraftKings lineup leaves $100. Where can I spend it? Yes, if I were to change my DraftKings lineup at all, let me pull this up again for everyone on the YouTube live. Again, link to that's in the TikTok bio if you're watching live on TikTok. If I were to change anything in this lineup, I would maybe get Elijah Moore out of there. I'm very confident about Elijah Moore, but he definitely has a really low floor this week. You can definitely fiddle with the Texans defense as well. And obviously there's some room to change with DJ Moore as well. I think those are the guys I would tinker with if you want to try to spend up or down in different places. I feel really good about Saquon Jacobs, and I'm obviously going for the Russ Sutton Dolch stack, so I wouldn't touch that either. I do really like Deontay Johnson's ceiling and floor this week too against the Bengals. I don't think many people will be playing Deontay Johnson. So yeah, if I were to tinker with this, I'd tinker with Elijah Moore, DJ Moore, or the Texans defense wide receiver rankings. Let me pull up those on the YouTube live. We do have Justin Jefferson, the king himself, at number 1. And we have Justin Jefferson number 1 rest of the season ahead of Tyreek Hill too, which is maybe a little bit bold with how good Tyreek Hill is playing. But guys, Justin Jefferson is on pace to have the best 3 years ever to start an NFL career. And he still has like 7 or 6 games left after this week. Absolutely crazy. He's about to pass Randy Moss for the best 3 years. I think just pure receiving yard numbers in the first three years of any wide receiver's career. Sam, should I start Pittman? Yeah, you should start Pittman. But there's 2 sides to every single start-sit decision. So we got to know who is on the other side of that start-sit decision. All right, I'll pull my running back rankings here again on the YouTube live. I still do have Christian McCaffrey ranked number 1. A lot of people might push back on that. I still think he's number 1 rest of the season in PPR formats and non-PPR, half PPR, though. I think he falls down to 2, 3, or 4 in the rest of the season rankings. Obviously, we got to keep monitoring how much Elijah Mitchell is going to be involved, though. Having some Wi-Fi issues on the TikTok live, so I'm going to try restarting the TikTok live. We do have the World Cup beginning during this live, which is going to be very exciting. World Cup starts in about an hour and a half till the World Cup starts. Isaiah Pacheco or Devin Singletary? I'm going Pacheco, man. I'm going Pacheco. I like Isaiah Pacheco this week. I have him ranked number 15 in my running back rankings this week. It's a really good matchup against the Chargers. I don't see how you couldn't like Isaiah Pacheco this week. He had 16 carries, season high, career high, 58% snap share for Isaiah Pacheco last week. If he continues to play well, I do think he's going to continue to see that role in the backfield. Yeah, my free player prop of the day, though, is the other Chief that I'm really bullish on today. That's Kadarius Toney. I think they're setting this prop line way too low. I like his fantasy point prop line on PrizePicks 2 over under 12.5 fantasy points. I think he goes over 12.5 fantasy points. There's no McCole Hardman in this game. There's no Juju Smith-Schuster in this game. Kadarius Toney saw way more snaps last week than he saw in his first game, and he's looked great, guys. Kadarius Toney, this is what I was saying when the trade happened. Seemed like everyone forgot because we hadn't seen Kadarius Toney on the field for so long. But he's very good, guys. He's extremely talented when he is on the field. He's only shown us him being extremely talented when he's actually healthy and on the field. So I feel very good about Kadarius Toney overall. And he only played 42% of the snaps last week, had 19 fantasy points, 57 receiving yards on only 5 targets. He could easily clear all those numbers this week if he plays, 70% of the snaps for the Chiefs. Obviously, we're betting on Kadarius Toney's hamstrings holding up for a workload like that. But Kadarius Toney over 50.5 receiving yards feels like stealing to me. So I do feel really good about Kadarius Toney. Someone's asking, why is Alvin Kamara so high on your running back rankings list? Yeah, I have Alvin Kamara at number 5 still, because Alvin Kamara to me still has one of the highest ceilings in all of fantasy football every single week. We've seen it from him before. Just 3 weeks ago, he had 42 points when he played the Raiders. He had 10 targets in that game. There's still no Michael Thomas. Jarvis Landry is coming back this week. Alvin Kamara has been under 10 points each of the last 2 games. But, guys, he still has the 3rd highest target share in the NFL. He's still third. That's at the running back position. 3rd most targets at the running back position. 2nd highest snap share at the running back position. The dude's playing 85% of the snaps. This is still one of the most talented running backs in the NFL. So, yeah, I still feel very confident about Alvin Kamara. I think he's definitely worthwhile in tournaments on DraftKings this week as well. Sammy, my guy, Cooks, Zeke, or Foreman, PPR. Yeah, I would go Foreman, I think, over Brandon Cooks and over Zeke. I don't feel great about Zeke. I also don't feel great about Pollard with Zeke coming back. First of all, bad matchup for the Cowboys running attack today. The Cowboys get the Vikings defense that's allowed the 3rd fewest yards per game to running backs. That's both receiving and rushing yards per game to running backs. The Vikings rank 3rd best. And then Zeke comes back this week, almost definitely. He's coming off the knee injury. I'm not very confident about Zeke being efficient. He already wasn't very efficient before the knee injury. And we've seen what he's looked like last year with a knee injury playing. But I still think Zeke leads the team in carries. So that makes me a lot less optimistic about Tony Pollard, too. I think it really lowers Tony Pollard's floor very considerably, again, especially in a matchup where it's a tough matchup for the Cowboys running backs. Guys, we're live on TikTok and YouTube. In the YouTube Live, you can see my top 15 rankings, every single position, my DraftKings lineup, my picks against the spread, and way more on the YouTube Live. Link to that's in the TikTok bio. Also, we got a Black Friday sale going on in the WalterPicks app right now, and already a very reasonably priced subscription is even cheaper for the next few days, so you don't want to miss out on that. In the iOS and Android app store, it's completely free to download, try out. It's going to help you with, Sam, you need mods so bad. Yeah, Brian, I really do need some mods. A good shout there. I will get on that. Shout out to everyone, though, in the YouTube and TikTok Live. Why bench Keenan? I can't trust Keenan to play a full game. And let me pull this up on the YouTube Live, too, on the bottom of the screen. Some of the guys that are out, some of the guys I think are must starts, and some of the guys I think are must benches. My must benches this week. I think you got to be benching Keenan Allen. We haven't seen Keenan Allen play a full game since week 1 or week 2. It's a good matchup for Keenan against the Chiefs. Like, if Keenan does play the full game, I'd want to start him this week. I don't have enough confidence that he's going to be able to play a full game. So I'm not starting Keenan. Kyler, hamstring injury. Call of Duty just came out for Kyler too. I got to factor that in. But no, in all seriousness, not a good matchup for Kyler and the hamstring injury. I'm off Kyler this week. Swift, he's practicing fully. He's off the injury report. I don't understand what it's going to take for Swift to get back to RB1 status on the Lions. It doesn't seem like it's going to be this week. He only played 30% of the snaps last week. He could easily have under 10 touches. You can't start Swift. Pollard. Now, again, we went through the Pollard stuff, but not a good match for the Cowboys running backs this week. The Vikings have allowed the 3rd fewest yards per game to running backs, and Zeke returning this week. Zeke likely going to get over half the carries in the Cowboys offense. I don't trust Zeke this week either, though. He's been really inefficient, and he's coming off a knee injury. Melvin Gordon is not someone I want to buy into. I do think Chase Edmonds, Latavius Murray will be involved against the Raiders. I'm not trusting any of the Rams running backs. I mean, that offensive line has been horrible. Tyrod Williams might get more involved, but I don't want to start any of them. They're all probably going to go under 10 points. Allen Robinson is not someone I'm buying into this week, even with the Cooper Kupp injury. I'm not trusting Allen Robinson. He's been unable to separate this whole season. I think the Cooper Kupp injury helps Tyler Higbee, Ben Skowronek more than it does Allen Robinson. I do think Tyler Higbee's a top 10 tight end play. I'm not starting Skowronek, though, either. Tyler Boyd is definitely someone I'm starting, but I'm benching Marquise Brown. I don't think he's going to play Monday night. It does sound like there's a chance he plays, which means he's well ahead of the timeline that I was expecting for Marquise Brown, but I don't think we can trust him playing this week. I think he's on the wrong side of questionable right now, but he's not officially ruled out. Terrible takes, dog. Thanks, man. In the TikTok live. Good point. Did not consider that. We're live on TikTok and YouTube right now, by the way, on the YouTube live. You get my top 15 rankings, every single position. You get my picks against the spread, my DraftKings lineup, a free player prop, all on the YouTube live. Link to that is in the TikTok bio. I'm not trusting Josh Palmer this week either. I think we could put him on my must bench list with Keenan Allen and Mike Williams likely playing tonight. Hi, Sam. Pick one, please. Paris Campbell, Slayton, Miles Sanders, or Donovan Peoples-Jones. Big playoff implications this week. Yeah, this is a huge, huge week. Each week from here on out, honestly, is like the biggest week of the season in fantasy football. You got to get into the playoffs, man. You got to get into the playoffs. It's all that matters. If you don't get into the playoffs, the season's over, man. That's just how it goes. Paris Campbell, Slayton, Miles Sanders. Yeah, I'd go Miles Sanders. Sanders is by far the safest player on this list, and he still has a really high ceiling. Again, I think that the Eagles -6.5 is my favorite spread this week. I see them completely blowing the doors off of their opponent this week. Let me pull up that matchup again really quickly. Yeah, the Eagles are playing the Colts. I'm not bought into the Colts and Jeff Saturday. I know they're coming off a win. I mean, it's just an embarrassing loss for the Raiders, but they're coming off a win. I'm not trusting them in this game. I like the Eagles significantly more. I still think the Eagles are one of the most complete teams in the NFL. I don't think they're frauds. I think they are legit Super Bowl contenders. I think the Colts are one of the worst teams in the league. So I was pretty surprised to see this spread at 6.5. I think that's good for Miles Sanders as well. And the Colts have been much worse against running backs than receivers. They rank second best. Colts rank second best against receivers this season. They've allowed the second fewest yards per game to receivers, but they've allowed the eighth most yards per game to running backs. So second fewest yards per game to receivers, eighth most yards per game to running backs. That bodes well for Miles Sanders. And again, if they get a huge lead, that also bodes well for Miles Sanders. Guys, we're live on TikTok. We're live on YouTube. On YouTube, you get my top 15 rankings, every single position. You get my picks against the spread. You get my DraftKings line. You get my favorite player prop of the day, all for free, just right on the YouTube live. Link to that, again, in the TikTok bio. If you are watching live on YouTube, smash like and subscribe button. Also, if I don't get to your start sit, there's a lot of start sits in the comments right now. I'm going to try to get to as many as I can, but if I don't get to your start sit, you got to go to the WalterPicks app. Link to that is in the YouTube description and the TikTok bio. It's completely free to download and try out. We're actually running an extremely cheap Black Friday sale right now. It's the cheapest you could possibly ever get a WalterPicks subscription, and that will include all the draft advice for next fantasy season too, if you subscribe now to the WalterPicks app. So really one of the best deals you can get all year right now within the WalterPicks app. I've spent the last 3 years of my life helping build that app, so that's the number one way you can support me. It's just checking out the app and considering one of the subscriptions. Deontay Johnson or Paris Campbell. I like Deontay Johnson this week. I've been saying for a while I think Deontay Johnson's one of my favorite buy lows, maybe my all-time favorite buy low in fantasy football right now is Deontay Johnson. He has not scored a touchdown this season. 0 TDs for Deontay Johnson. Meanwhile, he ranks really elitely in a lot of the underlying metrics I look at. He's 9 targets per game. That's top 12 in the NFL. He ranks top 15 in receptions this season. He's 13th in air yards this season. He's 4th in unrealized air yards this season. He's out there basically every single snap, running an elite route participation percentage, and he's going over 10 points still in the vast majority of his games. He has a really safe floor, a 10-plus point floor for Deontay Johnson, and we have not even come close to seeing his ceiling. Bengals corners all beaten up. We have Awuzie, who's out for the rest of the season. I really like Deontay Johnson a lot in this game. I could see George Pickens doing well against the Bengals as well. I just got Kenyon Drake off waivers and bumped Jamal down from RB2 to flex. Would I trade? No, I think that's fine. Tyler. I would keep him in the flex spot there. Hey, Sam, I picked 2 PPR. Tony, Garrett Wilson, Curtis Samuel, Tyreek is on bye. I know a lot of good receivers on bye. We got Tyreek, we got Waddle, we got Mike Evans, we got Chris Godwin. Just a few of the players on bye this week. But yeah, you got to go to Kadarius Toney, Nick. And good job snagging Kadarius Toney. If you got Kadarius Toney, guys, you're in a really good spot right now. You got to start Kadarius Toney over Garrett Wilson, over Curtis Samuel. There's no McCole Hardman this week. There's no Juju Smith-Schuster this week. I mean, Kadarius Toney is so far ahead of Marquez Valdez-Scantling, in Sky Moore, in Justin Watson on just a purely talent level. You got to see Kadarius Toney seeing at least another half the snaps this week. And I think a decent amount of targets. I think he had 5 targets last week. That could easily be 7+ this week. And Kadarius Toney continues to be just a beast with the ball in his hands. A very, very talented receiver when he's out there. He looks healthy too. So feel good about that. DK Leonard Fields has been insane. Yeah, so obviously a big decision point in DFS over the last few weeks. And once again, this week is, are you going to play Justin Fields or are you not going to play Justin Fields? I'm going against Justin Fields this week on DraftKings because, the heater's just getting so crazy for Fields. I'm scared about what his ownership percentage is going to be this week when he plays the Falcons. I'm actually paying down for Russ this week against the Raiders. I'm stacking him with Courtland Sutton and Greg Dulcich. I like the concentrated target tree for Russell Wilson this week. There's no Jerry Jeudy. There's no KJ Hamler. Kendall Hinton, the next receiver, he's questionable. We're still waiting to get a status on him. But that's how down bad these Broncos receiving depth chart is right now. Meanwhile, Courtland Sutton, fully healthy. Greg Dulcich looking great. I think both of them are going to lead the Broncos in targets today against a bad Raiders defense. So I like stacking with Russ, hoping Justin Fields obviously doesn't do great. And some of the other big quarterbacks on this slate, Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts, are going to not completely blow the lid off the slate, which is definitely possible. Same thing with Lamar, definitely could blow the lid off the slate as well. So there's a lot of elite QBs. I'm taking a bit of a risk playing with Russ this week, but they did change their play caller in this game too. I'm excited about what that could mean for the Broncos offense. It feels like it couldn't get much worse from a play calling standpoint. Drop Waller. Yeah, Darren Waller's been tough, man. You can drop him if you need the spot on your bench. It's always tough to hold out a spot on your bench for a guy that's just hasn't basically played all season. A PPR need upside. Allen Robinson, Slayton, Duvernay, Terrace Marshall, Nico Collins, Van Jefferson, Justin Watson. Yeah, it's these middle two guys that I think I would be considering the most. That's Terrace Marshall and Nico Collins. I'm out on Allen Robinson. Allen Robinson probably projects the best. Again, with Cooper Kupp out, he's their top receiver. But I don't have very much faith in Allen Robinson coming to fruition, even with Cooper Kupp out. We've seen nothing from A-Rob to give us confidence this season. He can't separate against anyone. I think Higbee and Skowronek are the biggest benefactors of the Cooper Kupp injury. So I'm going with Terrace Marshall or Nico Collins here. I think I'd lean Nico Collins, but they're sort of similar spots. Underrated receivers. They're going to be out there almost every snap for their respective teams, and both have decent matchups this week. But I think I would go Nico over Terrace Marshall. Personally, Devontae, Connor, or Drake. Devontae Smith, James Conner, or Kenyon Drake. Yeah, all three of these guys definitely options this week, Micah, in the YouTube live. We're going to get to as many comments as I can. I promise, by the way, but we're live on YouTube and TikTok. And if you come to the YouTube live in the TikTok bio, you can also see my top 15 rankings, every single position, which answers just straight up a lot of comments that I already see in the TikTok live. And that's right in the TikTok bio. You're like 2 presses of your finger away from the YouTube live if you're watching live on TikTok. But yeah, I do think this one's extremely close between Devontae Smith, James Conner, and Kenyon Drake. James Conner, let's talk about him first because I'm seeing a lot of James Conner questions. And I understand the concern about James Conner this week. He's playing the 49ers. The 49ers have been very good against running backs this season. Let me pull up the exact numbers here, but they for sure have been one of the elite defenses against running backs. They've been number one. They are the number one defense against running backs this season. They've allowed the fewest yards per game to running backs. That alone, that is a good enough reason to bench James Conner. But then you look at the numbers for James Conner last week. He played 95% of the snaps. That was the highest rate in the NFL. He had 23 touches last week. That was also top 10 in the NFL. So it's also tough to bench a guy playing 95% of the snaps, seeing 23 touches. That came against the Rams, though. Again, the 49ers defense much better. I could easily see Conner having a pretty brutal game this week. Meanwhile, Kenyon Drake has an amazing matchup. Kenyon Drake gets the Panthers, and we just saw just a few weeks ago, Joe Mixon against the Panthers have one of the best fantasy performances of all time. So I am okay starting Kenyon Drake over James Conner. And I think Devontae Smith has a ceiling, but he does not have the same floor as these guys, given his role in that offense. So yeah, I think I would go Kenyon Drake. A long way of saying Kenny Drake over James Conner, I guess, this week. I would play Kenny Drake over Tony Pollard as well. Ayo, how do you feel about Mr. Slayton? Ayo, I'm not feeling great, personally, about Darius Slayton. Like, he's done well. I just don't have very much belief in Daniel Jones still, but this is a good matchup, again, for Daniel Jones and the Giants against the Lions. The Lions have stopped absolutely nobody in basically across all positions. This season, Darius Slayton, 3 straight games now, over 11.5 PPR fantasy points. He's got at least 4 targets in each of those 3 games. 2 of those 3 games, he had 6 targets. But he still has a really low floor. His floor is still around 3 fantasy points. 3 fantasy points would not shock me from Darius Slayton, even against the Lions. So I think he has a ceiling, but the floor is still extremely, extremely low for Darius Slayton. I'm starting Pacheco. Yeah, I'm starting Pacheco this week too. I think you should start Isaiah Pacheco this week against the Chargers. Chargers run defense has been really bad this season. I like Isaiah Pacheco a lot. A happy Sunday, Sam, Pittman, Debo, Mike Williams, Dalvin Cook, or Kamara, 1 running back and 1 at flex. You got to start Dalvin. In almost every situation, you got to start Dalvin, but I'm not starting him over Alvin Kamara. I don't think I'm doing that. I think you probably go Dalvin and Alvin here over Debo. Yeah, I would go Dalvin Cook and Alvin Kamara. Definitely the highest floor, highest ceiling combo there. Tony or Mike Williams. I'm playing Kadarius Toney over Mike Williams, and I'm not even thinking that much about it. Kadarius Toney, we know he's playing, and we know Juju's out, and we know McCole Hardman's out. And McCole Hardman being out is actually bigger than Juju being out. McCole Hardman being out means we're probably going to see Kadarius Toney get 3+ carries. Again, he's going to take that whole McCole Hardman role. We know how much McCole Hardman's been involved. He scored a ton of touchdowns this season. Gives Toney a great chance at a TD. Juju being out makes things even better, though, for sure. So you got to like Kadarius Toney a lot against the Chargers. I do like Mike Williams if we know he's playing the full game against the Chiefs. But with that ankle injury, I do think he's a little bit more risky. Let me pull up the DraftKings lineup again on the YouTube Live. Again, come to the YouTube Live to see my top 15 rankings, every single position, my DraftKings lineup, my picks against the spread, my favorite player prop of the day, all for free on the YouTube Live. The link to that is right in the TikTok bio as well. Let me shout out one more time the WalterPicks app in the iOS and Android App Store. I've spent the last 3 years of my life helping build this app. It's completely free to download and try out. We're actually running a Black Friday sale on our premium subscriptions in the app right now, too. So it's the cheapest all year. You can get access to the WalterPicks subscription. It'll be good through all the way through this time next year. So you'll get all of our draft content as well as a part of that subscription. Again, it's 33% off right now. It's the cheapest it's going to be all year. So check that out if you haven't yet. That's the number one way you could support me. Really do appreciate all of you. Any TD scores for a parlay today? Yeah. So if we're talking touchdown scores, I do like rocking with Josh Jacobs with that. I also like Courtland Sutton to score a touchdown today as well. I'd also be very, very interested to see what the odds are for Isaiah Pacheco in those as well. I don't think he has scored very recently, but I do really like him against the Chargers to have a big run. Sam, love Sunday morning with your advice. Need to. Wide receivers half PPR. Gabe Davis, Ayuk, Rondo Moore. Thoughts, buddy? I got you, man. Thank you for tuning into the live. Shout out to everyone in the live right now. Seriously, hit that like button. Hit the subscribe button. Guys, the World Cup starts in like an hour and a half. I'm going to be pumped to be watching that. On this live, we got Qatar playing Ecuador. I don't know if you guys have not seen, by the way, the World Cup documentary on Netflix. You got to make time for that. Absolutely wild. Some of the corruption happening within the world, within FIFA, deciding where the World Cup is played. But yeah, sorry, I don't know how I got to the World Cup in the start sit question, but I think I would be going with, I think I'd go Gabe Davis over Ayuk and over Rondo Moore. I really feel like the ceiling is still really high for Gabe. I think he also had his first game over 4 catches, finally proving me wrong that he could do that this season. The ceiling's just been so incredibly high for Gabe every single week. He just needs a couple catches to go for 20 plus. And I don't feel like his floor is that much lower than the rest of these guys on this list. So yeah, I think I'll go Gabe in this one. Sutton or B Robinson. I'm going Sutton. I'm not benching Sutton this week with Jerry Jeudy out, with KJ Hamler out, and with Kendall Hinton potentially out too. Happy Sunday, Ryan. Thanks for joining the live. It's a great Sunday, man. We got a lot of really great games today. Let me pull up my picks against the spread. Oh, they've already been up for a little while, it looks like. But I do really like the Eagles -6.5. This week, I think they bounce back in a big way and prove that they are very much not frauds. I also like the Jets +3.5. I do think the Pats win, but the Jets could easily win that game. They should have beat the Pats just a couple weeks ago in New York, but this one's in New England. And the other thing to call out about this Patriots-Jets game, let Weatherman Sam come out for a second, because there's some weather you absolutely need to be aware of this week for fantasy. And the game that I think is going to be the worst weather today, low-key worst weather, because it's not the coldest game, but I do think it's going to be the windiest game. That's the Patriots versus the Jets in Foxborough. Wind gusts over 20 miles an hour. Now, the 25-mile-an-hour mark is where I start to get really concerned. But 20 miles an hour for Zach Wilson against the Pats defense is pretty concerning. I'm off of Garrett Wilson this week. I do still think Elijah Moore is very underrated. This week, I'm playing him on DraftKings for that reason at basically a minimum price. He has not gone over 10 points a single time this entire season, but I do think I'm trusting some of what was said in the Jets bye week over the last couple of weeks, that Elijah Moore is going to move to the slot, that he's out of the doghouse, that he's going to be out there for most of the snaps again. And that just hasn't been the case for most of the season. And Corey Davis is out again. So I could see Elijah Moore out receiving Garrett Wilson in this one. I don't think many people are projecting that. But overall, you got to be a little cautious with his passing attack. And this could be a really low-scoring game between the Jets and the Patriots. We also have another Northeast game with potential similar situation, and that's the Giants and the Lions. Potential wind gusts over 20 miles an hour in the Giants-Lions game. That one's in MetLife between the Giants and the Lions. That's very concerning for the passing attacks in this game too. I still think you've got to start Amon-Ra St. Brown, but gets me off all the rest of the Lions receivers. And the Giants, I guess Darius Slayton has a ceiling, but I'm really only trusting Saquon in this offense still. Daniel Jones, I do think can be started as well, but none of these receivers, I think, have any sort of a reasonable floor, especially with wind gusts potentially over 20 miles an hour. So those are a few games to watch out for. We have another game, though, with wind, and that's the Panthers and the Ravens. I don't think the wind is as bad in this game, but there will be wind over 15 miles an hour in this Panthers and Ravens game. Bad news for Baker in his first start against the Ravens, but it's a good matchup still for Baker. I'm a little less concerned about this game than the Giants and the Patriots games. And this isn't wind over 25 miles an hour, so all these offenses will still be able to pass, but we could see it have a little bit of an impact in these games. DK lineup, yeah, Ryan, I got you with DraftKings lineup on the YouTube Live. Again, we're live on TikTok and YouTube. Come to the YouTube Live for my top 15 rankings, every single position, my picks against the spread, my DraftKings lineup, which is on the screen right now. I'm not going with Jalen Hurts. I'm not going with Lamar Jackson. I'm not going with Justin Fields. In my DraftKings lineup this week, I'm taking a pretty big risk this week. I'm almost exclusively running the Russ, Cortland Sutton, Greg Dulcich stack this week. I think it'll be a relatively low-owned stack this week with all the elite quarterback options. And I'm running it back with Josh Jacobs against the Broncos as well. Josh Jacobs, one of the few sort of low-key workhorse backs in the NFL. He's seeing close to 25 plus touches a game, really elite snap share for Josh Jacobs. I really like Jacobs a lot, especially with Waller, Renfro continuing to be out. Josh Jacobs played 75% of the snaps last week. He had 21 carries and 6 catches, 27 total touches for Josh Jacobs last week. We could see another 30-plus point game, I think, out of him this week, even in a relatively tough matchup against the Broncos. Do I start Toney or Ramondre? You got to start Ramondre. I love Kadarius Toney this week. There's very few people out there that are on Kadarius Toney like I'm on Kadarius Toney. This week I'm playing, I don't know if any of you have played that sleeper daily draft game yet, but I have Kadarius Toney in every single one of those lineups this week. And I have him in a lot of my season-long leagues too. I like Kadarius Toney a lot, but I'm not starting him over Ramondre. Thank you for the advice. Pick one receiver, one flex, full PPR. Najee, DJ Moore, Ayuk, Garrett Wilson, and Rondale Moore. I have D-Hop starting. Yeah, if you have D-Hop starting, I don't think you want to go with Rondale Moore. On top of that, I'd probably go DJ Moore, and I think Najee too. I think I'd go Najee, DJ Moore over Ayuk and Garrett Wilson. Again, I'm off of Garrett Wilson this week with the wind and with the Patriots coming off the bye. I just can't see Garrett Wilson having another good game against the Pats. I think that'd be really impressive, though, if he did. Pacheco or Amari Cooper? Yeah, this one's close, man. I'm okay going Amari Cooper against the Bills. I understand the play there with Amari Cooper. I don't have him in my top 15 wide receivers, though. I do have Isaiah Pacheco in my top 15 running backs. He's number 15. I'd argue Pacheco has a little bit better of a floor. I still think the ceiling is really high for Pacheco. But, yeah, Amari Cooper's been really good, and it should be a high-scoring game against the Bills. I am okay going Amari Cooper. If this is a PPR league, going Amari Cooper over Pacheco. Non-PPR league, though, I think I'd go Pacheco over Amari Cooper. That's the other thing why I really would encourage you all to check out the WalterPicks app on your phones, iOS or Android app store, completely free to download, because not only is it going to help you with your start-sit comparisons if I can't get to your start-sit question, but it also takes into account your custom league settings, which a lot of times I'm not given in these start-sit questions, and they will impact the decisions. Should I take a chance on Marquise Brown, or should I start Jamal Williams? Don't take the chance on Marquise Brown, man. Not this week. Not this week. It's not the week to take a chance on Marquise Brown playing on Monday night. I'd be really personally surprised if he played. And even if he plays, I wouldn't be shocked to see him have a limited snap percentage in his first game back. He's well ahead of the timeline I was expecting. I'm not trusting Marquise Brown's playing on Monday night. Let me pull up my tight end rankings again. As always, Travis Kelce leads the way, but Mark Andrews is back this week. I do think he's going to play this week. He's expected to play. I have George Kittle at number 3, just ahead of TJ Hawkinson, who's in the top 4 now. But I really do like George Kittle against the Cardinals. George Kittle had a really quiet week last week. I do think Kittle has some legs in DFS this week as well on DraftKings and FanDuel. George Kittle had a really bad game. He only had 2 targets, 1 catch, 21 yards against the Chargers last week. But guys, he gets the Cardinals this week. We've been saying it all season, but I mean, it's just more and more true every single week. The Cardinals, they have not stopped a single tight end this season. They've been the single best matchup for tight ends, and that's saying something because the Seahawks have been horrible against tight ends. Also, Travis Kelce played this team in week 1. He puts up 8 catches, 121 and a touchdown. Next week, Darren Waller has his best game of the season, 50 yards, 6 catches and a touchdown. The next week, Tyler Higbee goes for 61 yards. The next week, Dallas Goedert rips off 95 yards. The week after that, Juwan Johnson, 32 yards, 2 TDs. We had Noah Fant have his best game of the season against the Cardinals, 96 yards, 5 catches in that game. Tyler Higbee, again last week, 8 catches, 73 yards against the Cardinals, man. George Kittle could go for 100 yards and multiple touchdowns in this game, and I would not be surprised. He has an extremely high ceiling. The floor is still a little bit low for George Kittle with CMC, Elijah Mitchell, Ayuk, Debo, just a lot of weapons in what is a run-first offense. But if this game between the Cardinals is anywhere close, George Kittle is going to have a monster game. He's going to be much more involved this week against the Cardinals. Again, they haven't stopped a single tight end. We just rattled off 7 tight ends that they didn't stop this season. It's only week 11. So you got to start George Kittle with a lot of confidence this week. I have him as my number 3 tight end. Hey, Sam, I need your expert opinion. Tony Pollard or Keenan Allen? Yeah, you got to go Tony Pollard, in my opinion. I got no Keenan Allen in any of my lineups this week. You really just, you got to wait this one out with Keenan. You can't put yourself through it again. We've already seen it play out. This is the thing with Keenan. We've already seen this play out. He waited a really long time. He finally came back, and he tweaked his hamstring in the first quarter of the first game that he was back. We got to see Keenan get through a full game before we put him in our starting lineups. I think that's a pretty safe approach. Obviously, he's a guy you would want to start if we knew he was fully healthy playing the Chiefs in what could be a shootout, but I'm not trusting Keenan in his first game back. Is D-Hop going to play? I do think D-Hop is going to play. Swift or Connor? I would go Connor over Swift. I'm not fully trusting Swift. I'll take on Pollard. Yeah, I kind of want to be wrong about the Tony Pollard take. I'm not going to lie. I want Tony Pollard to do well. I drafted him in maybe a few too many leagues, and that's really paid off over the last few weeks with Zeke out. But I'm nervous for Pollard in this game, man. He's playing the Vikings defense. They rank 3rd best against running backs this season. The Vikings have allowed the 3rd fewest yards per game to running backs this season. And Zeke is back, which means Pollard's going to see maybe half the amount of carries that he saw before. Zeke is likely going to lead this backfield in touches immediately upon returning. I don't think he'll be as efficient as Pollard, but I really do think that the floor and ceiling for Pollard are lowered really considerably with Zeke back, and in a tough matchup, I'm off of Pollard this week. Good morning, Sam. I'm here for the 5th week in a row. Thanks for the help. Thanks, Hudson. Love the app, by the way. Thanks, man. 2 questions. Everett or Njoku in pick 2. Thielen, Duvernay, Ayuk, Van Jefferson. Yeah, I do think Njoku's going to play this week. I don't think that's official yet, but if he plays, I'm playing him over Gerald Everett. I want nothing to do with Gerald Everett. And then pick 2, Thielen, Duvernay, Ayuk, Van Jefferson. Yeah, I think I'd go Thielen and Ayuk over Duvernay and Van Jefferson. From Italy, all the way from Italy, Ethan. Shout out Italy. DJ Moore, Garrett Wilson, or Pickens. I have Foreman as running backs too. Yeah, I think I would play Foreman over all of these guys. And then I wouldn't trust Garrett Wilson. I would go DJ Moore or Pickens. DJ Moore, kind of interesting spot for DJ Moore. There's a little bit of wind in that Panthers-Ravens game. I do like George Pickens against the Bengals, though, too. I think I would lean. Let me actually pull up the wide receiver rankings. I wonder where we have these two. I have a feeling that we have DJ Moore ahead of George Pickens, but let me just take a quick look. And we do. Yeah, you got to go DJ Moore over George Pickens. DJ Moore over George Pickens. Boyd or Olave or more. You got to go. I want to say Olave. Let me actually pull the wide receiver rankings, though, because I know we have Boyd really high in the wide receiver rankings this week, too. But yeah, I do think it's Olave. I think I have Olave a few spots ahead of Tyler Boyd, and I would play them both over Rondé Moore and DJ Moore. Again, guys, if you're asking more questions, if you're asking a question with more in it, I need a first name, man. There's Elijah Moore, there's Sky Moore, there's DJ Moore, there's Rondé Moore. I mean, there's a lot of Moores. I'm telling you, there's a lot of Moores. I subscribe. Thanks, man. I appreciate that. Gallup or Pickens? ESPN Plus saying Gallup because of the cornerback matchup and weak pass defense. Yeah, so Gallup has a ceiling this week for sure. Gallup absolutely has a very real ceiling. Many people probably don't realize the true ceiling Michael Gallup has because we haven't seen it from him this season. It's been a while since we've seen that ceiling game, but yeah, I would go Michael Gallup here as well. Gallup has sneakily become an every down player for the Cowboys over the last couple of weeks. He has over an 85% snap share each of the last 2 games. Dude ran 42 routes last week. That's almost double everyone on the Bears and everyone on the Falcons runs every single week. He had 7 targets last week. He now has at least 6 targets in 3 of his last 4 games. And he gets the Vikings. And we just outlined the Vikings have been really good against running backs. Really, really bad, though, in the secondary. That is the Minnesota Vikings. They've allowed the 2nd most yards per game to receivers this season. Only one defense has been worse than them in the secondary this entire season. So, yeah, I like Gallup. I do think Gallup is a really sneaky play. I like him on DraftKings and FanDuel, too, for all those reasons. The floor is still low for Gallup, though. Let's not kid ourselves with a lot of different options in this offense, especially with Zeke coming back. I do think the floor is really low for most of the Cowboys offense outside of CeeDee Lamb. But yeah, you got to love CeeDee Lamb for all those same reasons too. But yeah, I do like Gallup more than Pickens, but it has nothing to do with ESPN Plus. ESPN Plus is not something that I trust. Isaiah Likely or Cole Kmet. Oh God. With Andrews back, I feel like you got to go Kmet. I'm not bought into the Kmet stuff, but you can't start Isaiah Likely with Andrews back. Thoughts on Swift? Yeah, man, I'm with the rest of you with the DeAndre Swift stuff. I mean, we're all just waiting. Once Swift plays like a true running back 1, he's going to be a running back 1 in fantasy. If he gets even half the snaps, DeAndre Swift is startable in fantasy. but that's not what he's getting. He's getting 30% of the snaps. He's getting under 10 touches a game, and you can't start DeAndre Swift if he's going to get under 10 touches a game. And DeAndre Swift is such a tough one for me because all of the evidence shows that he's healthy. He's practicing fully. He's off the injury report. He's saying he's healthy. The coaching staff just doesn't trust him to stay healthy, and that's just a weird spot for Swift to be in. It's just tough to start Swift like with the limited touches that he's been getting. But once that changes, I mean, Swift is just such an elite talent. Pacheco or Montgomery, I'm in a must-win game. Yeah, so Montgomery is the much safer play, in my opinion, over Pacheco. I do really like David Montgomery this week. I have him ranked number 11. I have Pacheco ranked number 15. And without Khalil Herbert in the mix, I mean, David Montgomery could be back to workhorse status. That's what I'm expecting. At least I don't think Ebner is going to get a ton of run for the Bears. Last week, David Montgomery played 65% of the snaps, but yeah, Khalil Herbert injured. I think it's going to be potentially a 75% snap share day for David Montgomery against the Falcons. So yeah, I think you got to go David Montgomery over Isaiah Pacheco. As much as I like Pacheco this week, Pacheco or Devontae Smith, I am going Pacheco over Devontae Smith. No shot start Montgomery. Yeah, it's got to be Montgomery over Pacheco. I do agree. Gabe Davis or Sutton. I'd go Sutton over Gabe Davis. Again, if you come to the YouTube live, link is in the TikTok bio. You can see my top 15 rankings, every single position. Again, the link is to that. It's right in the TikTok bio. You're like 2 presses of your finger away. If you're watching on the TikTok live, you get my top 15 rankings, every single position on the YouTube live, completely free. Can answer a lot of these start sits in there. Andrews or Likely. It's going to be Andrews this week, it sounds like, on not Isaiah Likely. You think Kyler will play, and should I start Damian Harris? I do think Kyler's going to play, and I don't think you should start Damian Harris. Let's pull up the news here really quickly. Anything else that I've missed since this live started? Doesn't look like it. Again, there will be wind gusts in the Patriots-Jets game over 20 miles an hour. Lamar Jackson does look like he's going to be playing. It does look like Keenan Allen is going to be playing, but I'm not trusting him in my fantasy lineups until we see Keenan Allen play a full game. We got to see Keenan Allen play a full game. Like, I don't even know how much I should be needing to explain the Keenan Allen must bench. Like, have you been monitoring Keenan Allen this entire season? If you have, it's been about as brutal of a season it could possibly be for Keenan. We just really got to see him play fully healthy in a full game before we start him. Just subbed. Thanks, man. At Flex, Pacheco, Slayton, Sutton, or Zeke. Really torn between them. Yeah, really do appreciate the YouTube subs. We're trying to hit 10,000 YouTube subs this season. Really do appreciate the TikTok follows too. We're trying to hit 200,000 TikTok followers this season. And we're getting kind of close. We're getting kind of close, and I really do appreciate the followers as well. Yeah, I would go Sutton, though. I'd go Sutton over Pacheco, over Slayton, over Zeke. Really good matchup against the Raiders. A bad secondary. No Judy. No KJ Hamler. I mean, Sutton, I think, had 11 targets. Last week, you could easily see 11 plus again this week. And with all those guys out, yeah, he had 11 targets last week. 6 catches, 66 yards. He didn't find the end zone. In a good match against the Titans secondary. Another good match against the Raiders secondary today. I do really like Sutton. I like Pacheco a lot too, but I think I like Sutton more. Hey, Sam, been watching since 2020. Love the content. Thanks, Miles. Should I start Boyd, Tony, or Monty PPR? I would have Burrow and Higgins starting alongside Boyd. I don't hate the Burrow alongside Higgins and Boyd. I mean, we've seen that stack explode this season. Also, it does sort of feel like people have low-key forgotten how elite T. Higgins is. I think T. Higgins is a very interesting play on DraftKings this week too, because he hasn't had any of those big games in a few weeks. Feels like people might be sleeping on T. Higgins and forgetting how good he is. I think I have him as a top 8 wide receiver this week. Just not that long ago, we were seeing T. Higgins drop 25 points back in week 4. I think we could see another game like that out of him very soon. I like Kadarius Toney a lot this week too. I do think I have him ranked ahead of Tyler Boyd. I think I would go Toney over Boyd over Monty though. Yeah, I really like Kadarius Toney very, very considerably this week. I have him as a top 10 wide receiver. I have him ranked ahead of Michael Pittman, ahead of Chris Olave, ahead of Terry McLaurin, ahead of Deebo Samuel. It feels weird, but no McCole Hardman, no Juju, and a high-scoring game against the Chargers. Kadarius Toney snap share could easily increase another 20%. He only played 48% of the snaps last week. If that gets to like 60% this week and he sees a little bit more than the 5 targets he had, I mean, Toney's just so talented with the ball in his hands. You got to have a lot of faith in Mahomes, too. Mahomes has been the most consistent quarterback in the NFL this season. So I do feel really good about Kadarius Toney, his floor and ceiling in this game. Tony Pollard or Deebo Samuel? I'm going Deebo over Pollard this week. Deebo, I get a lot of people down on Deebo right now. He's been really inconsistent, not seeing the volume you saw last year. And now CMC in the mix, not going to help things for Deebo. But I still think he's going to be the wide receiver 1 rest of season over Brandon Ayuk. And I don't feel great about Pollard in this matchup. Again, the Vikings have allowed the 3rd fewest yards per game to running backs this season. Zeke's returning too. So you slash Tony Pollard's carries in half. You put him in against a top 3 run defense. And that's enough for me to be off of Tony Pollard this weekend and be benching Tony Pollard. I still think Tony Pollard is going to be the more efficient running back in this backfield. Could easily rip a long play, could easily score a touchdown still, but I still think the floor and ceiling is just considerably lower with Zeke returning and in a tough spot. So I'm going Deebo Samuel over Tony Pollard. Cole Kmet or Mark Andrews. Yeah, I would lean towards Andrews for sure. With Mark Andrews back, you have to start Mark Andrews. Unless you have Travis Kelce, you are starting Mark Andrews, and you should not have both of them on the same team. Cole Kmet or Mark Andrews, yeah, that one's a lit. I'm not bought into the Cole Kmet stuff, man. You can't get me fully bought into the Cole Kmet stuff. He's had 2 huge games, but he could easily score under 3 fantasy points this week, and nobody would be surprised. I would not be surprised, at least. I pull up my tight end rankings on the YouTube Live. Again, we're live on TikTok and YouTube. And on the YouTube Live, you get my top 15 rankings every single position. My picks against the spread. My DraftKings line. My favorite player prop of the day, which, by the way, speaking of Kadarius Toney, my favorite player prop of the day is Kadarius Toney over 50.5 receiving yards. I'm sorry. I think I had a comment up there on the YouTube Live that just went away. But I do really like Isaiah Pacheco this week. I do really like Kadarius Toney this week with Juju out, with McCole Hardman out. I think I'm getting a lot of Dulcich questions. I actually do think I have Dulch ranked ahead of Pitts this week. We haven't had very many Kyle Pitts questions in the YouTube Live and TikTok Live comments yet, but I do think that Kyle Pitts can be benched in a lot of situations, but don't get me wrong. Kyle Pitts still has a ceiling. He still has a ceiling. We just know his floor is as low as most of these other tight ends' floors. But yeah, I really like Dolch with Judy out, with KJ Hamler out. I think Dolch is a pretty high floor, high ceiling play for the tight end position. His floor is still obviously extremely low because he plays tight end. Why would I play Isaiah Pacheco over DeAndre Swift, over Tony Pollard this week? It's a much better matchup for Isaiah Pacheco than it is Tony Pollard and DeAndre Swift. The Giants defense has been very strong this season. The Giants are very much playoff team right now, and it's because of their defense. So I'm a little nervous for the Lions offense in general because of that. But on top of that, the Lions, let me pull up the Lions here. Yeah, the Giants have been number 8 against receivers. They've actually been worse against running backs, 21. They ranked 21st against running backs this season, 8th against receivers. But the defense has been better than I think people have given them credit for. But on top of that, Pacheco is playing the Chargers. He had 16 carries last week. He played 58% of the snaps. If he sees those same numbers this week against the Chargers, I think he goes over 100 yards and a touchdown in this game. But the other encouraging thing for Isaiah Pacheco, again, he played a season high, career high, 59% of the snaps last week for the Chiefs. Clyde Edwards-Helaire only played 4 snaps in that game. Sounds like Clyde's going to be maybe a little more involved, though, than that. But they're also saying they're taking Pacheco off some of the special teams units because he's played so well. And he also ran 16 routes last week. He didn't see a single target, but that's by far the most routes he's run in a game this season. If he gets more involved in the passing game, which he could with Juju and McCole Hardman out, like I could see also Pacheco stealing some of that McCole Hardman role on top of Kadarius Toney. So I like both of them a lot in this matchup. It should be a high-scoring game, too, against the Chargers. Lamar or Fields? Yeah, so let me pull up my QB rankings. I actually have Fields ranked 1 spot ahead of Lamar. Feels super weird to do that. I'm not going to lie. The best rushing QB of all time, in my opinion, is Lamar Jackson. But Fields, he set records of his own of his last few games, and he gets the Falcons in a dome setting this week. As good of a matchup it is for Lamar against the Panthers. Bad run defense, too. I do think you got to ride the hot hand with Fields right now. I do have him ranked 1 spot ahead of Lamar Jackson heading into Week 11. Guys, we're just getting started here, man. By the way, the World Cup starts in an hour. I'll be keeping you guys updated on the Qatar versus Ecuador matchup. If you haven't seen that Netflix series yet, by the way, about FIFA in the World Cup and sort of how the process worked to get the World Cup in Qatar in the first place, definitely go watch that on Netflix when you get a chance. But we are just getting started, man. We're only an hour-ish into this live. Got another couple hours left. We have about 3 hours till kickoff. A lot to get through, a lot of games to talk through. Still some news to come as well. We'll, of course, keep you updated on the news as it comes in. Chase Claypool. I've seen 0 Chase Claypool comments, and he's probably available on a lot of waiver wires right now. Really disappointing second game for the Bears. He comes in his first game with the Bears and looks like he might be pretty involved. And then in week 10, he plays less. He plays less in his second game. He only 31% snap share. He only ran 4 routes in his second game with the Bears. They just traded somewhat of a bag for him. It sounded like he was going to be their wide receiver 1, and then he plays less in his second game. I do expect that to go back up. I think he plays over half the snaps. Chase Claypool for the Bears this week. I think he could surprise some people this week too. I don't know if he's worth an ad in season-long leagues. Definitely don't think he's a startable player, but I do think he's going to surprise people. Hey, Sam, who would you start, Pollard or Moore? Again, we're here, but we're back with this Moore stuff. We need first and last names in some of these start sits. There's Elijah Moore, there's Rondo Moore, there's DJ Moore, there's Sky Moore, there's more, even more Moores. There's more Moores than most people realize. So we need first and last names. I'm going to assume you mean DJ Moore. And if you mean DJ Moore, I do like DJ Moore a little bit more than Pollard this week. Elijah Moore, I think, is actually a sneaky, interesting sleeper this week too, but I wouldn't start him over Tony Pollard. Rondale Moore is a close one too. I am okay going Rondale Moore over Tony Pollard also. Pacheco, Gibson, or Mitchell at flex, half PPR. Yeah, I'm not fully bought into the Elijah Mitchell stuff enough to start him in this situation. And Gibson has a really good matchup, man. Adam, Gibson has a good matchup. Both him and Brian Robinson, I think, could have really, really big days. And both have pretty solid floors. And J.D. McKissick is out again. So Gibson bodes pretty well. But I still think I'd go Isaiah Pacheco over Antonio Gibson because he also has a really good matchup. And he also saw 16 carries, season high, career high, 58% snap share last week. And he gets the Chargers, who are the second best defense for running backs. So you got two really good options here with Pacheco and Gibson. I definitely would start them both over Mitchell. And I think if it was a full PPR league, you could think Gibson a little bit more, gets a little bit more of that pass work. But yeah, half PPR, non-PPR, I'm okay going Pacheco over Gibson. And again, guys, the best place to go if I can't get your start sit question, or even if I do get your start sit, it's the WalterPicks app in the iOS and Android app store. We're running a Black Friday sale right now. The app's already free to download, but the premium subscription in the WalterPicks app is also 33% off right now. As cheap as it's going to be all year. And it includes all of our draft content for next year if you do the annual subscription now. So really one of the best deals you'll get all year in the WalterPicks app is available. Check that out. It's the number one way you could possibly support me as well. The subscription was really already a steal, and now it's just now it's basically just free. PPR Mooney or Rondale Moore. Yeah, I would go Rondale. I think over Mooney. It is a good spot for Mooney though. Let me pull up the wide receiver rankings here. I know Rondale's been balling. Mooney's been low key kind of consistent as well though. Let me pull up here. Yeah, we do have Mooney 2 spots ahead of Rondale Moore. Yeah, so I guess I'd go Mooney over Rondale. It's very close. I guess the Kyler questionable status too makes me want to lean a little bit more towards Mooney. Falcons dome game against the Falcons secondary. I am okay going Darnell Mooney over Rondale Moore. Guys, shout out to everybody in this live stream right now. I look forward to these lives every single week. And I've been prepping for this one all morning. A lot of good, interesting games this week. Let me pull up my picks against the spread one more time on the YouTube Live and just talk through some of these games really quick. So first of all, Jets 3.5-point underdogs against the Pats. I'm taking the points there. Jets could easily win that game. I'm taking the Pats to win the game, but the Jets easily could win the game. I think it could be a really close one, just like the last game. And it's also expected to be a lot of wind in that game. Wind gusts over 20 miles an hour. That could be a really close, low-scoring game between the Jets and the Patriots. My favorite spread of the week, it's the Eagles, -6.5. The Eagles are, to me, they should be at least 10-point favorites in this game against the Colts. I think the Colts are a bottom 5 team in the NFL still, and the Eagles are a top 3 team in the NFL still. So I'm really shocked by that spread. I know the game is in Indianapolis, I would assume, based on the spread, but yeah, I'm still hammering the Eagles in that one. I really like Miles Sanders in that game too. The Bills, 8-point favorites against the Browns. I am taking 8 points. It's a lot of points, but I still think the Browns are the Bills are considerably better than the Browns. That game obviously got moved to be played in the Detroit Lions Stadium. We weren't even sure that game was going to happen. It does look like that game is going to happen though. The Giants, they're 3-point favorites in their matchup against the Lions. I think the Giants defense is just so much better than the Lions defense that I'm willing to take the Giants in that one. The Bears +3 against the Falcons. I think the Bears, Justin Fields, continue to cook against this bad defense. The Panthers 12.5-point underdogs against the Ravens. That's just so many points that you got to take the Panthers in that game, but I do like Lamar and the Ravens offense to have a pretty solid day against a bad Panthers run defense. This is a good match for the Ravens. They're a run first offense against a bottom 5 Panthers run first defense. So you got to feel good about the Ravens, but 12.5 points is still just too many for a team that's dealt with a lot of injuries this season again. We also are getting an official report. Zeke Elliott is going to return today against the Vikings, but I'm told the plan is for Tony Pollard to get more touches as they ease Zeke back in. I think we might have to take Pollard off this must bench list, man. With this report again, I was under the assumption that with Zeke returning, Tony Pollard would lose like around half of his carries, and he still very much could lose around half of his carries regardless of this report. But with Tony Pollard being reported before the game now, maybe we won't see Zeke eat as much of that workload up as I was expecting. I do think Tony Pollard a better start based on that report. I'm to the point where I'm okay starting him over a guy like Drake London. I'm okay starting Tony Pollard over Garrett Wilson. I would start Tony Pollard over Garrett Wilson. I start Tony Pollard, honestly, I think, over all the guys on my must bench list. But yeah, getting that report here from Tom Pelissero. I think he's of NFL Network. Apparently, Zeke is playing, but Tony Pollard will out-touch him in this game. So Pollard get a little bit more legs this week than I think I was giving him credit for. Sutton or Pierce to start for flex. I have Adams and Boyd for my 2 wide receivers. I just bought your WalterPicks app today, and I'm still not sure. Max, first of all, thanks so much, man. Like, really, the reason I'm able to do this every single Sunday morning and this be a part of my full-time job every single week is all the subscribers in the WalterPicks app who I'm grinding all week for. Really, like you, Max, are who I am grinding for. So I appreciate you so much for doing the subscription in the WalterPicks app. Again, Black Friday sale right now too, so it's an absolute steal of a price. I would go Sutton. I would go Sutton over Pierce. Again, I really like Sutton this week. If this is a PPR league, if this is not a PPR league though, you got to go Dameon Pierce. You got to go Dameon Pierce if this is not PPR. If it is PPR though, I'm going Sutton. Again, thanks for the subscription to the WalterPicks app. In a bit of a pickle, should I start Dak or Kyler? Also, D-Hop is questionable. Should I replace him with Nico Collins? I don't think you should replace D-Hop with Nico Collins, no. And I would go Dak over Kyler with the injury. I'm not trusting Kyler this week. Hey, Sam, full PPR, Isaiah Pacheco or Jamal this week. I'm going Pacheco, man. I really like Joey. I like Pacheco. I hope you're doing well, Joey, and I hope you're ready for a fun Sunday night with Isaiah Pacheco against the second worst run defense in the NFL. Pacheco saw 16 carries last week, 58% snap share. That feels like a pretty big milestone for Isaiah Pacheco. And they're already talking about getting him off of special teams. And like really, Pacheco's going to have to earn his keep. Like he's going to have to keep playing well, I think, to keep a hold on his backfield. And I don't think he'll have a very long leash, but I think he's going to play well against this Chargers run defense. So I expect another week where Pacheco leads this backfield in touches, leads this backfield in snaps, leads this backfield in carries. So yeah, I'm pretty bullish on Isaiah Pacheco. I like Kadarius Toney a lot this week too, with Juju out, with McCole Hardman out. Ayuk or Keenan. I'm not trusting Keenan in his first game back. I can't get myself to do it. I'm very nervous for Keenan Allen, but I do like Ayuk a lot more than him. I like Keenan if I know he's going to play the whole game against the Chiefs, but there's just no way I can say I know Keenan Allen's playing the whole game. The last time he tried to play, he was out in the first half with a re-aggravation of his hamstring injury. He basically hasn't played since week 1 or 2. MBS or Hunter Moore, 0.69 PPR. I mean, Mitchell, this is a hilarious scoring system that I've never seen before. So shout out to your league for that. But yeah, I think I would go Rondo Moore over MBS. Like MBS definitely gets a bump too with Juju and McCole Hardman out. But I still think it's going to be Toney, Kelsey, Pacheco leading the way for the Chiefs, not MVS. He probably will be out there for most of the snaps, though. But yeah, I feel a little bit better about Rondo Moore. And Rondo Moore has been balling, man. He's been balling the last few weeks. Let me pull up the Rondo Moore stuff really quickly. Yeah, he's gone over at least basically 15 points in 3 straight weeks for Rondo Moore. He had 13 targets last week from Colt McCoy. He's now at least 8 targets in 3 straight games. And moving to the slot has been huge for Rondo Moore. I'm hoping that can be huge for Elijah Moore, too. Shout out to all the Moores out there. But yeah, I really think Elijah Moore is going to surprise people this week. I think he's worth an ad off the waiver wire in deeper leagues. Ahead of this week, he's going to be moved to the slot exclusively. He's out of the doghouse for the Jets. He's going to be playing an every down role in a windy game. I don't think Garrett Wilson deep shots are going to work very well for the Jets this week. I do think Elijah Moore gets 5+ targets for, I think, the first time this season. Sam, reported Pollard getting more touches than Zeke as he's back in. Yeah, literally I read that one out just a few minutes ago. And yeah, Pollard's off my do not bench list. And he's going to be on there for the rest of the TikTok live because I'm not going to change this background. But I wouldn't bench Tony Pollard nearly as much off this report. I think I was off on that one. It sounds like Zeke is going to be less involved than I was expecting. Right now, I have it projected at Zeke having 42% of the carries and Pollard having 38% of the carries. I think that's going to be flipped maybe to like 50% of the carries for Pollard and like 35% for Zeke. And that does make Tony Pollard a pretty good play. Top 15 play, I think. Top 16 play, maybe. I'm at 16 with these numbers. So yeah, I like Tony Pollard. I like Tony Pollard's prop too with this report. Tony Pollard's over under rushing is 42.5 rushing yards. I think he goes closer to 60 if he's going to out carry Zeke. Zeke or Pacheco. Yeah, you can't start Zeke. With this report, you cannot start Zeke. So replace Zeke with Pollard in my do not draft list. I would definitely would start Isaiah Pacheco over Zeke. Especially in a PPR, not especially, but definitely even in a PPR league. Good morning, Sam, Pittman, Pacheco, or Brian Robinson. Full PPR. Pittman seems like an easy answer, but he hasn't been great lately. Yeah, I know Pittman hasn't been great lately, but we do have Matt Ryan back, which is obviously good news for Michael Pittman. I don't love the matchup for him against the Eagles, but yeah, he saw 9 targets last week. So it is a reasonable decision. He played 98% of snaps I mean, Pacheco and Brian Robinson, though, they're playing the two bottom run defenses. So I don't think it's such a straightforward decision. If this is full PPR, though, yeah, I do think going Pittman is okay. Full PPR is the only case for Pittman, I feel like. If it's half PPR, non-PPR with these running backs against the dead last and second to worst run defenses in the NFL, both these guys could see 15-plus carries against bottom two run defenses. So, I mean, both these guys are definitely in play, but I do think Pittman's ceiling is higher. In PPR leagues, I would go Pittman. The floor, though, is better, I think, for Pacheco and B-Rob. I'm playing Pacheco over Brian Robinson personally. That could end up easily being a mistake, too. Again, they could easily both go 15-plus carries against bottom two defenses. But I like the ceiling for Pacheco more than Brian Robinson. I think there's room for Pacheco to do even more in this offense, too, if he really starts this game hot against a bad Chargers run defense. But, yeah, in a PPR league, I am still going with Michael Pittman there. Sam, you help me every week. Reed, I got you, man. Start two, Singletary, Zeke, Pollard, Pacheco. Love you, Sam, and I look forward to next week. Reed, love the positivity, man. Appreciate you. Appreciate everyone in this live right now. This is one of my favorite things to do every single week. And, yeah, I'm starting Pollard over Zeke. I know I Pollard is my must bench in the TikTok live, but we already got a report that I was a little off on that. It sounds like Zeke is going to be eased in a little bit this week, and Pollard's still going to lead this backfield in touches. So you got to play Pollard over Zeke. I would play Pollard and Pacheco over Zeke and Singletary. In this one, I know that the Bills are pretty big favorites against the Browns, but I still like Pollard a little bit more than Singletary, and I'm definitely playing Pacheco. I recommend the app to my friend because it's amazing. Thanks, man. Would you rather have Lamar or Fields rest of season? This one's a really interesting one because I have Fields ranked third, one spot ahead of Lamar Jackson this week. Let me pull up my QB rankings for this week on the YouTube live. Again, if you're watching live on TikTok, come to the YouTube live. You can see my top 15 rankings, every single position. You can see my favorite picks against the spread. You can see my DraftKings lineup, my player prop of the day, all on the YouTube live for free. Link to that's right in the TikTok bio. But I do have Fields ranked one spot ahead of Lamar this week. Both have good matchups this week. Fields' matchup is better than Lamar's, though, this week. But I still think Lamar rest of season over Fields. And the reason is that the fantasy football playoff schedule for Lamar is something that I've been talking about a lot this season. But he started the season really hot, right? 2 of his first 3 games, Lamar goes over 45 points. I've been saying for a while, I kind of feel like he's going to end the season like that. He gets the Falcons in week 16. He gets the Steelers in week 17, and he gets the Browns in week 15. I mean, he's got a really good fantasy playoff schedule. Those are 3 arguably top 12 matchups for Lamar in the fantasy playoffs. I don't know. I don't have Fields' playoff schedule in front of me. Let's actually pull it up, make sure it's not equally as good. But I love that playoff schedule for Lamar. I do think Lamar starts to cook in the back half of the season. We also have Justin Fields. He has a bye in week 14, and then he gets the Eagles and the Bills in the first 2 playoff games. Not easy matchups for Justin Fields. He does get the Lions in week 17, but you got to get all the way to the fantasy football finals by then. So, yeah, I do like Lamar over Fields rest of the season. Hey, Sam, should I start Jamal Williams or Tony? It's got to be Kadarius Toney, man. It's got to be Tony. I feel really good about Tony this week. I have him as a top 10 play this week. If I pull my top 10 wide receivers, I got Justin Jefferson, Stephon Diggs, Devontae Adams, CeeDee Lamb, Amon-Ra St. Brown, DeAndre Hopkins, T. Higgins, A.J. Brown, Cortland Sutton, and then Kadarius Toney. There's only 9 receivers I'd like more than Kadarius Toney this week. Kadarius Toney sets a new snap percentage high last week. I think he played about 48%, 48, maybe 43%. 43% of the snaps last week for Kadarius Toney. He sees 5 targets, 4 catches, 57 yards, scores a touchdown. Also sees 2 carries, 33 yards. McCole Hardman out, Juju out this week against a Chargers team that's supposed to be getting Mike Williams and Keenan Allen back. I'm still not trusting Keenan, but could be a high-scoring game. Toney, I think, is the most talented receiver outside of Travis Kelce that the Chiefs have going into this game, and he played 43% of the snaps last week. What if that's 60% this week? All of a sudden, we're seeing 10 targets for Kadarius Toney from Patrick Mahomes. He could easily score a touchdown. He could easily go over 100 yards. That's why Kadarius Toney is also the free player prop of the day. Over 50.5 receiving yards for Kadarius Toney, like that as well. Why bench Swift? Because Swift has not gotten like over 10 carries in a game for over 10 touches in the game for so long. And even though he's practicing fully, he's off the injury report. Like, we really just got to see Swift have a real role in this offense before we start him in fantasy. Again, last week he had 7 touches. He only played 30% of the snaps. He scores on one of those touches, still finds a way to get 8 points, but the ceiling is so capped for Swift right now with how little he's been playing. But guys, we're live on TikTok and YouTube. On YouTube, you get my top 15 rankings, every single position, my picks against the spread, my favorite player prop, my DraftKings lineup, all on the YouTube live. We also have an app that I've helped build over the last 2 years. It's called the WalterPicks app. Link to that is in the TikTok bio and the YouTube description. It can answer all your start sits or help you answer all your start sits for free. It's a free app to download, and the premium subscription that lets you sync your league to the app is also 33% off right now for a Black Friday sale. So check that out. Number one way you can support me is checking out that app. Hey, Sam, could you go through the injury report for today, as I have a few questionable guys? Also love the app. Been using it for a year. Ty, thanks so much. And yeah, I will go through the injury report really quickly. So a lot of guys are out. Cooper Kupp out, Jamar Chase out, Jerry Jeudy out, KJ Hamler out, Juju McCole-Hardman are out, Corey Davis, J.D. McKissick, Daniel Bellinger, P.J. Walker, Gus Edwards, all out. Gus Edwards is not officially out. He's questionable technically, but he's on the wrong side of questionable, so I'm listing him as out for the sake of the assumption to make your start sits easier. I think we can safely assume Gus Edwards is out. That's obviously big for Kenyon Drake. Some of the guys that are still technically questionable, Kendall Hinton, who might not be a big name usually, but he's the number 2 or 3 receiver for the Broncos today. He's questionable. He might miss too, which is even further, I think, condensing the target share for Courtland Sutton and for Greg Dulcich, who I am playing in my DraftKings lineup this week. I think those are the main questionables. Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, they are both expected to play. I am not trusting Keenan, though, in his first game back. Tony Pollard is definitely not a must bench this week. I had him as a must bench at the beginning of the TikTok live. He's still up there, technically behind me on the TikTok live, but I am starting Tony Pollard now with that report that Zeke is going to be eased in. Zeke not expected to outtouch Tony Pollard in his first game back. It's still not a great matchup for Tony Pollard, though. He gets the Vikings. The Vikings have allowed the 3rd fewest yards per game to running backs, but with how efficient Tony Pollard's been, and now with the confidence that he's going to outtouch Zeke, I'm okay starting Tony Pollard. Hey, Sam, Pacheco or Debo? Debo has been disappointing lately. Yeah, this one's close, man, and I am okay going Pacheco here. I don't feel great about it. Like, I still feel like the talented Debo really deserves to be started over Pacheco, but Pacheco, 16 carries last week. He gets the Chargers this week, man. I feel like the floor is there for Pacheco, and the ceiling is arguably higher than even Debo's is. Debo is almost definitely not going to get 10-plus touches in this game against the Cardinals. It really does limit his ceiling a lot. Obviously, the ceiling's still there for Debo. He can break a 60-yard play anytime he touches the ball. But yeah, I am okay going with Pacheco. Can you put your tight end rankings? Yeah, I got you with my tight end rankings. And tight end, guys, it has been a bleak world in the tight end position again this season. It's like if you don't have Travis Kelce, you are literally just scraping the bottom of the barrel every single week, trying to figure out what tight end to play. I mean, we've had donuts from top 10 tight ends week in and week out. Tyler Higbee, multiple donuts. We've had Dalton Schultz, some brutal donuts. We've had Kyle Pitts, some close to brutal donuts. All those are top 10 tight ends this week. So it's pretty bleak out there. One guy you won't find in the top 15 for the first time in a while is Taysom Hill. Taysom Hill, man, where did you go? You were a dominant piece of the Saints offense to start the season, and he's under 2 fantasy points each of the last 2 games, just a complete non-factor. All of a sudden, it almost feels to me like maybe let's give Taysom Hill a couple weeks off so defenses stop planning for him, and then we'll get him involved again. But he actually played a season high 43.9% of the snaps last week. That's Taysom Hill, but he touched the ball 0 times. He had 1 carry, 1 yard, 0.1 points. I mean, he's got under 2 points combined the last 2 weeks. I mean, crazy for Taysom Hill. Brutal season for tight ends. Kenyon Drake, a bad start. No, he's not a terrible start with Gus Edwards likely out. Kadarius Toney, I would play over all of the Moores. I'd play him over DJ Moore. I'd play him over Rondo Moore. I'd play him over Elijah Moore. I'd play him over Sky Moore. I'd play Kadarius Toney over all those guys. Keenan Allen or DPJ, that one's close, man. Like at that point, I think you can strongly consider Keenan, but Donovan Peoples-Jones has been quietly one of these very consistent receivers. I don't think he scored a touchdown yet this season either. No, he has 0 TDs. Meanwhile, he's gone over 10 points in 4 straight games. Donovan Peoples-Jones has at least 9 points now in 6 consecutive games. I mean, he's gotten over 50 yards in 6 straight games. That's Donovan Peoples-Jones. Yeah, I'm okay playing him over Keenan Allen. Again, I'm not trusting Keenan Allen in his first game back. I need to see Keenan Allen play a full game without tweaking his hammy before we put him in our fantasy lineups. Hey, Sam, I see you still have CMC ranked at 1. What are your thoughts about him splitting with Elijah Mitchell? Yeah, so these are my PPR rankings, and I will say he would not be number 1 in my half PPR or non-PPR rankings. CMC splitting with Elijah Mitchell definitely is not good for CMC. But his receiving role in that offense is still big enough for me to rank him number 1 among running backs. But yeah, he definitely is a lot less clearly the top running back. Like I think you could easily make an argument for a few of the guys I have near the top. Derrick Henry obviously already played, but I think you could have argued him number 1 this week too, especially in non-PPR formats. Saquon, I think, has an argument to be number 1. I think Eckler and even Jacobs, maybe even JT and Alvin Kamara, all could be number 1 running backs. And I wouldn't argue too intensely with you about it. But yeah, the role for CMC in the passing game, still pretty elite, still pretty unheard of. He had 6 targets last week, 9 targets the week before that. Continues to really raise his floor and ceiling in PPR leagues. So yeah, that's sort of my thoughts on CMC. Yeah, he could split carries with Elijah Mitchell and still get 20+ touches with 5+ catches in the game. And he's still going to be a top 12 running back if that's the case. So yeah, I still like CMC a lot, but definitely nervous and something to monitor about the Elijah Mitchell situation. Olave, Pittman, or Sutton, pick one. Yeah, I think I would go Sutton over Olave this week. Let me pull up my wide receiver rankings again. Again, you can see my top 15 rankings, every position on the YouTube live. Link to that's in the TikTok bio. If you are watching live on TikTok, guys, hit the follow button. If you're watching live on YouTube, smash the subscribe button. We've been live for about an hour and a half now. Got another hour and a half-ish to go, guys. The World Cup also starts in 30 minutes, so I'm getting very excited for that. Okay, let's get to some more comments here. Going to be ripping through some comments throughout this whole live. You'll get my thoughts on most players if you stick around long enough. What's your thoughts on Komet just chasing points? Yeah, I'm not in on Komet. I'm not in. It is kind of just chasing points. Just about the apps. Grams 789. Thanks, man. Close rankings on Gibson versus Foreman thoughts, and whoever you don't pick versus Mike Williams in the flex. Yeah, I'm okay just benching Mike Will. Coming off the ankle injury, I'm fine with it. I think benching Mike Williams and Keenan Allen is a safe approach. You are limiting a little bit of upside there against the Chiefs, but I like both Gibson and Foreman. And Foreman is being used like a little Derrick Henry, but he's on the Carolina Panthers, which is obviously much worse than being on the Tennessee Titans. But yeah, he had 31 carries last week. There's very few players in the NFL that could hit 30-plus carries in the game. Deontay Foreman is one of them, but they're 12.5-point underdogs against the Ravens. Like, that's not a good game script for Deontay Foreman. So, yeah, I'm definitely playing Gibson over Foreman, personally, with J.D. McKissic being out. And then I think you could play Mike Williams over Foreman. If this is a PPR league, I'm okay with it. If it's not a PPR league, though, I still think Foreman, who has, again, 30-plus carry potential. I don't think he sees 30 carries, though, against the Ravens. Again, they're 12.5-point underdogs in that game. I am taking the Panthers against the spread, though, but still. Connor, Najee, B. Robinson to flex half PPR. This one's definitely close. None of these guys in my top 15 running backs. That's Connor, Najee, and Brian Robinson. Brian Robinson for sure has the best matchup of all of these guys. James Conner, I would argue, is probably going to touch the ball the most of all of these guys. But it's definitely really close, and it's not a good matchup for James Conner. It's not a good matchup for him. In a half PPR league, honestly, I think I would go Najee or Brian Robinson here. Again, matchup for B-Rob is really good. He's playing the Texans. He had, I think, 26 carries last game. 26 carries last game for Brian Robinson. We were all over the Brian Robinson prop in that game against the Eagles. Yeah, he had 26 carries. Brian Robinson almost had more carries than his yards prop line. It was 32.5. He had 26 carries on a 32.5 over-under prop line against the Eagles. Obviously, everyone thought the Eagles were going to just smack the Commanders in that game, but not what happened. I honestly, the more I'm talking through this, starts at Aiden, it's really close. And I think projections might have this completely flipped, but I actually think I'd go Brian Robinson over Najee, over James Conner this week. If he sees 26 carries against the Texans run defense, like, he's going to outscore those guys. Jacoby or Rondale Moore. Yeah, I'm going Jacoby over Rondale Moore. I think I'd go Jacoby over DJ Moore too. The wind in the Patriots game does have me concerned, but I still do like Jacoby Myers a decent amount this week as the top receiver for the Pats. I think Jacoby's been extremely, extremely underrated this entire season. He's top 15 in fantasy points per game this season in PPR leagues. Someone asking, why are you benching Allen Robinson? So I get that some people are excited for Allen Robinson because Cooper Kupp got injured, and Cooper Kupp was averaging 11 targets a game. Obviously, Cooper Kupp, one of the best, if not the best, wide receivers in the NFL for sure. He's top 3. He was pretty clearly number 1 last year, but there's some really good receivers in the NFL right now, so it's hard to argue. For sure, he's number 1, but he's in the top 3. He was averaging 11 targets per game. A-Rob, meanwhile, he has not been able to separate this entire season. I don't think of those 11 targets per game, I think the majority of them are going to go towards Tyler Higbee, Ben Skowronek. I don't have a lot of faith in Allen Robinson all of a sudden becoming this beast in fantasy football with Cooper Kupp out. If anything, I think he actually could get worse as defenses are even more focused in on Allen Robinson. He's been a really easy guy to stop this season. He's gone under 11 fantasy points in all but 2 games this entire fantasy season. And it's not like a snap share is going to get higher for A-Rob. He's already been out there every single snap. He's seen over an 88% snap share in every single game but 1 this season. And in that 1 game, he still ran 40 routes. Like, he's not the Allen Robinson that he once was. And he's not able to separate. So yeah, I'm not excited about Allen Robinson. I am excited for Tyler Higbee, but it's a tough matchup for him this week too. And I'm not starting Ben Skowronek, even though I do think he's probably the biggest benefactor of the Cooper Kupp injury. What's up, Sam? You think I go Slayton or Wan'Dale at flex? I'm getting screwed by bye weeks. Yeah, Nick, it's a tough week with the receivers for bye. We got the Buccaneers receivers on bye. There's another really good receiving group on bye that I'm totally blanking on right now. But yeah, a lot of good receivers on bye this week. I am okay going Slayton over Wan'Dale. I know that I have a feeling Wan'Dale probably projects better than Slayton. But I know that Wan'Dale picked up an injury this week. I do think he's expected to play. Let me pull up what that injury was again really quickly. Yeah, he was optimistic that Wan'Dale hamstring would play week 11. You got to go Slayton. You can't go with a guy that has a hamstring injury. And I'm pretty sure the hamstring injury literally popped up this week. We got an eliminator pool question. I actually love the survival pool questions. Commanders or Texans as Commanders over Texans, a lock. Oh God, I don't know if you can say it's a lock. Let me pull up my picks against the spread this week. I want to see which side of that game I took, but I don't think you can call anything with Taylor Heineke a lock. Yeah, I am taking the Texans +3. They're only 3-point favorites, so no. Commanders over Texans, not a lock. The locks this week are the Ravens over the Panthers. I like the Chiefs -5.5 too. I like the 49ers. They're more of a lock as well. Even the Bengals over the Steelers, I think is more of a lock than the Commanders. Not sure if you have them left, but yeah, definitely not a lock. Commanders definitely not a lock this week. Huge help, Scott. I got you, man. Full PPR. Who are you starting at? Your 2 wide receivers: Pittman, Amari Cooper. We got another Moore. Man, Scott, you're better than this, man. Which Moore? Is it DJ Moore? Is it Rondale Moore or Sutton? Leaning towards Pitt and Sutton. Yeah, I would lean that way too, actually, I think in this one. With Matt Ryan playing, I'm for sure starting Sutton. Let me pull up my wide receiver rankings again, but you'll see Sutton is in the top 10. This week, there's no Jerry Jeudy, and there's no KJ Hamler, and there might not be any Kendall Hinton too. And I don't want to read too much into Kendall Hinton's injury status, but if he's out too, I mean, there's even less to go around. I honestly don't even know if the Broncos will have a 4th receiver in this game if Kendall Hinton's out. I think it'll be 3 receivers, and 2 of which most people will have never heard of. So yeah, I like Sutton a lot. And I like Pittman too. I think Pittman and Amari Cooper are really close. I think I would play Pittman and Amari Cooper over all of the Moores in this one. So there's my thoughts on that, Scott. Mike Williams, Cordero Patterson, or Amari Cooper. Yeah, I think I'd go Coop, Matt, over Mike Will and Patterson. Patterson is in a good matchup this week against the Bears. The Bears have been a DJ Moore. Yeah, I would still go that way. Thanks for that, Scott. Let me pull that question up again really quickly. I don't know if I'm going to find it. Here it is. Yeah, I would go Cooper over Patterson and Mike Will. Patterson's in a good matchup this week against the Bears run funnel defense, but it's a four-way committee in the Falcons backfield, really lowering the floor and ceiling for all those guys. We got Cordero Patterson. He's going to see 33 to 40% of the backfield touches, but then we also know Tyler Algier will be involved. We also know Caleb Huntley will be involved, and Avery Williams was even involved on some passing down work too last week. And Cordero Patterson has 0 pass work in this offense too, so I don't love Cordero Patterson. I could easily see him having a big run, though, in a good matchup. Sam, I've been here since the start. Flicky, man. Thanks so much. Singletary or Swift. Also pick 2 wide receivers and a flex: CD, Marquise Keenan, Rondale Palmer, and Schultz. Yeah, I'd go Singletary over Swift. I like the ceiling for Swift still. I still think Swift has a really encouraging ceiling, but we got to see him play more until he's in our starting lineups. And then pick 2 wide receivers. And yeah, you got to start CD. You got to start Rondale here, too. And you can't trust Marquise or Keenan, so you got to go Palmer, I think, over Schultz. I think I would – Josh Palmer versus Schultz is definitely close, man. I don't like starting 2 tight ends, but I also don't love Josh Palmer with Keenan and Mike Will back. Honestly, in this one, I think you might have to go Keenan. I think you go CD and Keenan, and you hope Keenan plays a full game because I don't love starting Palmer or Schultz over Keenan Allen. Good morning, Sam. Hope the stream's been good so far. It's been great, man. Been a great stream so far. Great stream ahead as well. Need help at my flex. Would you rather play Najee, Devontae Smith, or Pickens at that spot? Yes, so Devontae Smith's ceiling, I feel like can't be completely ignored. I feel like it is somewhat similar to George Pickens. I really do expect Devontae Smith and the Eagles to stomp the Colts, which I think is probably bodes well for Miles Sanders. The Colts secondary has been good, number 2 or number 1 against receivers this season, and they have not been great against running backs this season. So I think I would probably, if you're playing it safe, especially if this is not a full PPR league, I think I'd go Najee. If you're shooting for the ceiling, I think I'd go George Pickens. Personally, though, I think I'd go Najee Harris, who did have his best game of the season last week. Yo, Sam, need help. PPR, Jamal Williams, Brian Robinson, Michael Carter, Elijah Mitchell, pick 1. Yeah, I'd go B-Rob. I'd go B-Rob over Jamal, over Michael Carter, and over Elijah Mitchell. He's playing the dead last run defense in the league. He had 26 carries last week. 26 carries last week for Brian Robinson. If he gets anywhere near that against the Texans, I mean, he's going to have a huge day. Easily could go over 100 yards. Who should I start, Tony or Pittman? Yes, this one's tough, man. This one's tough because, I mean, it feels weird saying Kadarius Toney here, but I do have Toney 1 spot ahead of Pittman. I have Toney rounding up my top 10. I have him at number 10 this week. There's no McCole Hardman. There's no Juju Smith-Schuster. He's playing the Chargers in what should be a high-scoring game. I really like Toney a lot this week. I think you've got to start Toney in almost all spots. As always, thank you, Sam, and good luck in your lineups today. Thanks, Austin. Good luck in your lineups as well. Let me show up the DraftKings lineup this week. I'm taking some big risks on DraftKings this week. Again, if you come to the YouTube Live, you can see my DraftKings lineup on the screen right now, but I'm not going with Jalen Hurts. I'm not going with Lamar Jackson. I'm not going with Justin Fields. I'm going with Russell Wilson against the Raiders. And Russ has been really bad this season. This one could easily backfire. But with the concentrated target shares of Cortland Sutton and Greg Dulcich, with Jerry Jeudy and KJ Hamler out, I really like going this way in DFS and tournaments. I don't think many people are going to be playing this stack this week with all the elite quarterbacks in decent spots. This allows me to pay up for Saquon Barkley. This allows me to pay up for Josh Jacobs in the run back against the Denver Broncos. I really like Deontay Johnson. This week, Deontay Johnson has not scored a touchdown yet this season, but he ranks pretty elitely in almost all the peripheral numbers. He's top 15 in air yards, top 15 in targets. I think Deontay Johnson could find the end zone this week against a pretty injured Bengal secondary. I also like Elijah Moore as a big sleeper on DraftKings this week. He's priced basically near the minimum. And I'm buying the reports about Elijah Moore being more involved this week. I think he's out of the doghouse officially in New York. I think he's going to play a near every down role in the slot in what is going to be kind of a windy, slow, low-scoring game against the Pats. I could see Elijah Moore out-receiving Garrett Wilson this week. And again, I don't think anyone's playing Elijah Moore on DraftKings. I wouldn't play him in your season-long fantasy leagues, but I do like his price on DraftKings. Again, I'm going with a Dolch stack with Russ and Sutton. And then I'm playing DJ Moore in the flex and Texans defense. I don't feel super strong about DJ Moore this week, but I do think that against the Ravens secondary, he's a pretty good start at his price. Thielen or Pacheco, I would go Pacheco over Thielen. I really do like Pacheco a lot this week. Tony Pollard is not a must bench anymore. If you're watching live on TikTok, I have him behind me as must bench, but there was a report that Pollard is still expected to out-touch Zeke in Zeke's first game back. They're going to potentially ease Zeke back in. We have a report here. Let me talk through some of the weather again today. There is weather to very much be aware of. I think that this week could be much more low scoring than people are realizing. We have, first of all, the Lions playing the Giants in MetLife Stadium. Potential 30-mile-an-hour wind gusts. I'm reading on my timeline right now. I had the weather report up before, and I see the average wind, not necessarily the wind gust, in front of me here. And there's going to be some wind today that you need to be aware of. Wind is the thing to be most scared of. I'm more scared about wind affecting passing offenses than I am about rain or snow or cold or pretty much any other factor of weather. It is the wind that gets me nervous because wind over 25 miles an hour is really hard to throw in. We've done studies on this. It's extremely hard to throw, and offenses do score less when we see wind over 25 miles an hour. There's a few games we could see that today. The Jets playing the Patriots. There's going to be sustained winds around 15 miles an hour in that game, and there could be wind gusts over 20 miles an hour. Not sure we'll see into that 25-mile-an-hour threshold, but still pretty concerning for that Patriots-Jets game. I'm definitely off of Zach Wilson. I like the Pats defense. I'm off of Garrett Wilson. I like Elijah Moore more than Garrett Wilson even more now with this wind because I think playing in the slot, that is a little bit easier to deal with the wind than playing on the outside. We also have the Lions and the Giants. The Lions playing in Meadowlands in MetLife Stadium. And there could be wind gusts up to 30 miles an hour in this game. Obviously, horrible news for Daniel Jones. Really bad news for Wan'Dale Robinson and Darius Slayton. Really bad news for Jared Goff. I still think you have to start Amon-Ra St. Brown, but it's not great news for him either. It could be good news for Jamal and DeAndre Swift in this game. Also could be fine news for Saquon Barkley going up against a really bad Lions defense. We also have the Panthers-Ravens in that game. Expected 16-mile-an-hour sustained winds. Wind gusts over 20 miles an hour in the Ravens-Panthers game. Bad news for Baker Mayfield in his first start in a while. Lamar Jackson is a really good option in fantasy, but mostly because of his running, not because of his passing today. Not great news for Mark Andrews. Not great news for Terrace Marshall or DJ Moore, but I still think the pass catchers in that game, Terrace Marshall and DJ Moore specifically, can be started. Mark Andrews has to be started still. Lamar can still be trusted too, but maybe that's good news for Deontay Foreman. Again, the wind games today, we got the Panthers and the Ravens. The worst game is probably going to be the Lions at the Giants. But we also have the Jets at the Patriots. 3 windy potential games. The Browns and the Bills, they're playing in the Lions Stadium today. And there's going to be wind in that game too, but that's a dome. So we're not worried about that game. So yeah, there's really 3 games to be worried about. Passing offenses with the wind. Weatherman Sam going to be checking out. I'll be back maybe one more time in this live, but again, the weather to be aware of. Jets at Patriots, wind gusts over 20 miles an hour. Lions at Giants, wind gusts over 25 miles an hour. And then the Panthers, the Ravens, wind gusts likely over 20 miles an hour in that game as well. Tony or Higgins or Pierce at flex. Yeah, you got to go Higgins, man. You got to go Higgins. You have to start T. Higgins this week. I like Kadarius Toney as a top 10 option, but not more than T. Higgins. Morning, Sam. Who do I start? Allen Robinson, DJ Moore, or Drake London? Drake London, kind of a sneaky play this week, not going to lie. He's seen 7 targets in each of his last 2 games. Drake London also has a very, very sneaky, good playoff schedule. I was buying all the Drake London ahead of the playoff, ahead of the trade deadline, and I'm feeling pretty good about it. He's coming off his best game of the season, second best game of the season. His best game came back in week 2 But yeah, he's had at least 6 targets now in each of his last 2 games. But he hasn't gotten over 40 yards since week 3. So, like, let's not act like there's a huge ceiling with Drake London. I still think DJ Moore is a better option than Drake London. And again, I'm not trusting Allen Robinson, even with Cooper Kupp injury. He has not been able to separate this season. I still think the floor is really, really low for A-Rob. I don't think you want to put yourself through a day of rooting for Allen Robinson. Scary Terry or Tony on Sunday Night Football, PPR. Yeah, you got to go Tony. You got to go Tony over Terry. As good as Terry's been with Taylor Heineke, I'm really bullish on Kadarius Toney against this Chargers team. And with McCole Hardman out, Juju out, even just the McCole Hardman role being there for Tony, 3 carries, 33 yards last game, he could easily see some carries this week. I think he's got a really good chance of a touchdown. He's also the free player prop of the day, over 50.5 receiving yards for Kadarius Toney. Pollard, Swift, or Allen Robinson start 1. Yeah, I'd play Pollard over Allen Robinson and Swift. And again, I know I have Pollard ranked as a do not start this week on the live, but on the background behind me. But we've since gotten a report that Pollard is expected to outtouch Zeke in this game. So we're playing Pollard over Zeke. We're playing Pollard over Swift. We're playing Pollard over Allen Robinson. I don't think he's a must bench anymore. No news really has come out yet. Minka Fitzpatrick is good to go. By the way, somehow he recovered from appendicitis in like 3 days. Super impressive from Minka Fitzpatrick. Don't know how that's possible for anyone that's dealt with appendicitis before. Schultz or Kittle, you can't bench Kittle this week, guys. Yeah, I mean, you can't do it. He's playing the Cardinals. As bad as Kittle was last week, Kittle has maybe the high ceiling among all tight ends after Travis Kelce and Mark Andrews this week. He gets the Cardinals, guys. We've been through it on these lives, but the Cardinals, I mean, if there's one defensive matchup to target in fantasy, it's the Cardinals playing tight ends. They have stopped literally no tight ends this season. We rattled it off earlier, but let me rattle off all the tight ends that have gone over 15 fantasy points. These are all the tight ends that have gone over 15 points. Think about how bad the tight end position's been this season. All these tight ends have cleared 15 points against the Cardinals. Travis Kelce, Darren Waller, Tyler Higbee did it, and he did over 10 in his first matchup too. So Tyler Higbee's done it almost twice. Dallas Goedert did it. Noah Fant had by far his best game against the Cardinals. He went for 96 yards against them. So he did it. Taysom Hill almost did it. Juwan Johnson did it. And we had, I think that's everyone. Foster Moreau had a decent game against them too. But yeah, the Cardinals have stopped nobody. They've allowed by far the most tight ends to go over 15 points this season. They've allowed the most fantasy points per game to tight ends this season. George Kittle could easily go over 100 yards in this matchup. You got to go George Kittle against the Cardinals defense. Higbee or Dolch? I'm going Dolch. I think over Higbee. Let me actually pull this up. I actually think Higbee might be one spot ahead of Dolch. Yeah, he is. I have Higbee at number 6. And again, I think the Kupp injury, it helps Higbee and Ben Skowronek more than it helps Allen Robinson. I'm actually very nervous for Allen Robinson in this game. I'd caution you to not start Allen Robinson. Start Pacheco. Why should I start Isaiah Pacheco? Well, you need to start Isaiah Pacheco because he's playing the Chargers. The Chargers have been the second best matchup for running backs this season, and Isaiah Pacheco saw 16 carries last week. And he played a season-high 58% of the snaps. And Isaiah Pacheco ran a season-high 16 routes. I think that he could be seeing a catch or two in this game too, which would be huge. 58% snap share, 16 carries, 16 routes for Isaiah Pacheco last week. Now they're saying they're taking him off special teams. And I think like with Isaiah Pacheco, I don't think he's necessarily like this automatic locked-in starter for the Chiefs the rest of the season. I think he's going to have a pretty short leash if he doesn't play well. But he's going to play well against this bad Chargers run defense. So I really like him this week. I think he's going to maintain that role he had last week this week. And it's going to be really exciting. Sam, start Zeke or Swift. Oh, God, Sean. I mean, these are two guys I just don't want to start. I actually think I would start Swift over Zeke. With this report about Zeke, man, you can't start Zeke. Pollard's going to out-touch Zeke. This is not a good matchup for the Cowboys' run offense either. The Vikings have allowed the 3rd fewest yards per game to running backs this season. Zeke's going to see not his normal workload in this game, and he's going to be hampered by a knee injury, which we've already seen really slows down Zeke in the past. So, yeah, definitely off of Zeke this week for sure. I'd play Pacheco over him. I'd play Tony Pollard over him. I'd play Swift over him. Hey, Sam, premium sub, start B-Rob or Patterson. Yeah, I feel a little bit better about P-Rob than Patterson. It feels weird because Patterson's in a really good matchup, but B-Rob's in the matchup against the Texans. B-Rob has 26 carries last week. If he goes 20-plus carries this week, you're going to have wanted to have started Brian Robinson. Patterson is in a 4-way committee in that backfield. We have Cordell Patterson's going to lead the way. I still think he leads the way, but maybe only 30 to 40% of the snaps. Then we have Tyler Algier mixing in. We have Caleb Huntley mixing in, and even Avery Williams, who most people have never heard of. He's mixing in on 3rd downs. They have 4 backs that are going to play this week against the Bears, so that does get me a little off of Cordell Patterson. Why Tyler Boyd? You got to start Tyler Boyd against the Steelers. The Steelers have allowed the 2nd most fantasy points per game to receivers this season. Tyler Boyd, without Jamar Chase, is going to continue to cook in the slot. He has another game where he should easily clear 10 points. He's a really, really good floor, Tyler Boyd, and the ceiling is there For Tyler Boyd, 2. Start Freiermuth or Dolch at tight end. Yeah, I would go Dolch. I think actually I have Muth over Dolch too. I have Muth at number 5. I do like Muth with Chase Claypool gone now against the Bengals. I do think I'd go Muth over Dolch. And then Wilson, Cordero, or Gallup at flex. I'm assuming that's Garrett Wilson. I think that's Garrett Wilson. I don't feel good about Garrett Wilson at all. I think Garrett Wilson really is a must bench this week. Let's swap out Pollard for Garrett Wilson in our must bench list because there's going to be wind gusts over 20 miles an hour for the Jets. And they're playing the Patriots coming off a bye. I don't feel good about Garrett Wilson at all. I honestly, I think I might go Michael Gallup here. Really good spot for Gallup. Gallup has quietly been an every down player for the Cowboys the last couple of weeks too, over an 85% snap share for Michael Gallup each of the last 2 weeks. He gets a Viking secondary that has not been good. They have not been good this season. Their run defense has been good. Their secondary has been much worse. They've allowed the second most yards per game to receivers this season. So yeah, that definitely bodes well for Gallup. I think Gallup's ceiling is being kind of slept on too. I like him on DraftKings this week. Hey Sam, bye week has 4 of my starters out, so my flex is a rough one in a 16-man PPR league. Yeah, Ty, with 4 bye weeks in a 16-man league, it gets pretty bleak out there. And Njoku, Justin Watson, with the Chiefs wide receivers out, or Elijah Moore. Ty, man, this is the one. I've been waiting for this question, honestly, all day. You got to go Elijah Moore. I'm telling you, I got a good feeling about Elijah Moore this week. The dude has not been over 10 points a single time this season, and I'm putting him in my DraftKings lineup because I'm buying into what a lot of the coaches have said over the last 2 weeks for the New York Jets. That, first of all, Elijah Moore, he's out of the doghouse. The Jets realize that with Corey Davis out, they cannot rely on Denzel Mims and Braxton Berrios to win them NFL games. They need Elijah Moore, who we've seen be very good in the NFL. So he's going to be back to, I think, a near every down role. I'm expecting an 80% snap share for Elijah Moore in this game. And they also said they're moving him to the slot. That could bode well for Elijah Moore in a game with 20-mile-plus wind gusts. We have not seen Elijah Moore play at least 85% of the snaps in the game since week 4. So I'm expecting at least 5 targets for Elijah Moore out of the slot today against the Patriots. Not a great matchup necessarily against the Pats, but I do think Garrett Wilson will be the focal point. I think they could be caught a little off guard with how much Elijah Moore plays too. So yeah, I'm going Elijah Moore over Justin Watson, over David Njoku. But that's not saying a ton. But yeah, this is the one question I can answer Elijah Moore to. Kadarius Toney or Higgins or Pierce at flex. You got to go Higgins, man. You got to go T. Higgins. Let me pull up my wide receiver rankings again, but T. Higgins is well up there in the rankings. Number 7. I have him ahead of A.J. Brown and Cortland Sutton this week. Pollard or Drake? Yeah, that one's close too. I honestly still feel like Drake is a little bit better than Pollard, but with this report that Pollard's going to out-touch Zeke, it's really, really close, man. It's definitely close for sure. But yeah, I think I would lean away from Pollard in this one. QB Justin Fields could become the first QB in NFL history to rush for 100-plus yards in 3 consecutive games. And he gets the Falcons today, man. He definitely could do that against the Falcons. That's on Justin Fields' mind heading into this game. D-Hop injury thoughts, sit because of playing on Monday. No, I think D-Hop plays. So I'm okay holding out hope for D-Hop, and he's a top 10 option if he plays too. So those are the kind of guys I do want to hold out hope for. You got to bench Marquise Brown, though. I don't trust Marquise Brown coming back for this game. I know he has a chance to play technically, but I'm not feeling confident in that at all. Kadarius Toney, Pittman, or Amari Cooper. Yeah, I'm going Toney over Pittman, over Amari Cooper this week. There's no McCall Hardman. There's no Juju Smith-Schuster. A high-scoring game against the Chargers. I like Kadarius Toney a lot. Guys, we are live on YouTube and TikTok right now. On the YouTube Live, you get my top 15 rankings every single position completely free. Link to that's right in the TikTok bio. Plus, you get my DraftKings lineup, all my picks against the spread, and my player prop as well. Also, if I can't get to your start-sit question in the comments, I try to get to as many starts as I can. I go very fast on this live. I've been live for close to 2.5 hours now, but I'm not going to be able to get to all the start-sits. There's too many comments for me to possibly get to all the start-sits. That's why I've spent the last 3 years of my life building the WalterPicks app, which is in the iOS and Android App Store, which can help you all answer all these start-sit questions. And it's completely free to download. And it's in the iOS and Android App Store. It offers the best projections you're going to find out there for free. And there's also a premium subscription in the app that allows you to sync your league to the app to get custom insights based on your league settings and roster settings. And that's on a Black Friday sale right now too. So it's the cheapest deal you're ever going to get for the WalterPicks subscription. I love you, Olave or Toney. Again, I appreciate all of you as well. And I do really like Toney. I am very rarely telling you to start guys over Chris Olave. If you guys have been following me all season, I've been in on Chris Olave for a while, and I'm very in on him again this week. I've ranked as a top 12 wide receiver, but I have Kadarius Toney ranked number 10, man. I'm in on Kadarius Toney more than I am in on Chris Olave. So yeah, I like Chris Olave, but not more than Kadarius Toney this week. Again, with all those injuries to the Chiefs pass catchers, you got to like Kadarius Toney a lot. Allen or Fields? Yeah, I'm still starting Josh Allen over Fields. Sam, Danny Dimes or Russ this week? Yes, let me pull up my QB rankings here I'm playing Russ in my DraftKings lineup, but I have Daniel Jones ranked ahead of Russ this week. He gets the Lions. The one concern I will say, though, about that game, again, that's one of the windy games to be aware of. The Giants versus the Lions could have wind gusts into the 30-mile-an-hour range, and that's pretty concerning for Daniel Jones. But Daniel Jones rushing is what really makes me need to put him in the top 10 this week. And against the Lions defense has been so bad. So I am okay going Daniel Jones over Russ, but I do like Russ's ceiling more than Daniel Jones pretty considerably. That's why I'm playing Russ on DraftKings. It's all about the ceiling for me on DraftKings. So I'm playing in huge tournaments. Happy Sunday, man. Guys, the World Cup starts in like 7 minutes. Like 7 minutes, I think the World Cup is starting. So that's all very, very exciting. We got a very highly anticipated matchup between Qatar and Ecuador. But yeah, it's been a great Sunday. Going to be a great football Sunday as well. A lot of exciting games, good games to look forward to, especially the Sunday night game tonight, Chiefs versus Chargers. I think that's the game I'm looking most forward to. Great Black Friday sale. Thanks, man. So let me get to this one. Rondo Moore, Deontay Foreman. Yeah, I think I'd go Rondo Moore over Deontay Foreman. The more I think about it, the more I'm nervous for Deontay Foreman in this game. He had 31 carries last week. There's very few guys that can hit 30-plus carries. So that bodes well for Deontay Foreman, but they're 12.5-point underdogs in this game. And a guy that's still reliant on the carries in a game that they're 12.5-point underdogs against the Ravens, I don't know. I don't feel great about Deontay Foreman in that situation. Great Black Friday special. Yeah, in the WalterPicks app. This is the cheapest you can get access to the WalterPicks subscription all year. 33% off. It was already a very reasonable price, in my opinion, and now it's just an absolute steal in the WalterPicks app. If you're going to do the subscription, you got to do it now. It also gives you access to, if you do the year subscription right now, you'll be locked into this price every single year. So you're going to get that discount every year. And you're going to get access to our draft tools for next season if you subscribe now. So if you had a bad fantasy season too, now's the time to subscribe to the WalterPicks app. You get access to all the tools, obviously, for the rest of the season and in the off season, but also in the preseason before the fantasy season starts. All right, let's get to the starts. Dolch, Pitts, or Conklin. Let me get to the tight end rankings here. By the way, to find the WalterPicks app, you know where to go. Link is in the TikTok bio, YouTube description. I do think I have Dolch ranked ahead of Pitts and ahead of Conklin. Last time the Jets played the Pats, Conklin had 2 TDs. I'm not buying into the Conklin situation, though, this week, especially with the wind in New England. I do like Dolch more than Pitts this week, too, with Jerry Jeudy and KJ Hamler out. I like Dolch against the Raiders. Pitts definitely has the high ceiling, though, in my opinion, still, but the floor is lower than Dolchich has, in my opinion. Dalton or Kyler Murray? I don't think I have either of them. My top 15 QBs. Let me pull those back up. I actually do. I have Kyler right at the end here. I do think Kyler plays. I would play Kyler Murray over Andy Dalton. I can't get myself to play Andy Dalton over Kyler. Pacheco or Brian Robinson? I do like Pacheco more than Brian Robinson this week. They both have elite matchups. Pacheco playing the second worst run defense in the NFL. The Chargers have allowed the second most yards per game to the NFL in the NFL to the running back position. That's why I'm starting Pacheco, who had 16 carries, a career high 16 carries, 58% snap share for Isaiah Pacheco last week. So I'm feeling bullish on him this week, heading into a really, 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 really good matchup against the Chargers. I like Brian Robinson this week too, though. He gets the Texans. They're the dead last run defense in the league. So they both can be started, but I like Pacheco the most. And I'm just very excited about Pacheco and what could be a really high-scoring game there between the Chargers and the Chiefs tonight. Let's get back to some of these in the YouTube live and TikTok live comments. We got MCJ or Curtis Samuel. Michael Carter, I think you're talking about. I feel like MPJ, Michael Pittman Jr., maybe is who you're saying here, though. If it's Michael Pittman, I would go Michael Pittman. If it's Michael Carter, I think I'd go Carter. I'm playing Pacheco over Swift 100%. Swift is just too low of a floor with how limited he's been playing. Kmet or Connor? Yeah, I'd go Connor over Kmet. I do not want to start 2 tight ends, and Connor did see 20-plus touches last week. Curtis Samuel, Deontay Foreman, or Tony Pollard at flex. Please, I need an idea. Yeah, this one's between Foreman and Pollard for me. I think I would go Pollard over Foreman. Kenyon or Swift. Again, I know I had Tony Pollard ranked as a must bench at the beginning of the TikTok live. That's why you can still see it in the background of the TikTok live. But I don't think he's a must bench this week with the recent report that he's going to play more and touch the ball more than Zeke, and they're going to ease Zeke back in his first game back from a knee injury, which makes Zeke a must bench. Tony Pollard not a must bench, though, anymore with that news. And I'm not someone that suffers from take lock. One of the most dangerous things in being a fantasy sports analyst, being a sports analyst in general, is getting locked into your takes. I really try hard not to get locked into takes, and we got to react to new info. And we did get some new info in that report this morning from NFL Network that said, yeah, Zeke is likely going to play less than Tony Pollard this week. This sale is a steal. ETN or Jacobs rest of season. Yeah, I would lean towards God, I want to say Travis Etienne. My gut's saying Travis Etienne. Jacobs' workload has been so elite, though, that definitely is close. And with Waller and Renfro out, too, like Jacobs is just locked into 20-plus touches every single week. I really like him this week. I have him as a top 5 option, I think, this week. Yeah, I'm at number 4. I still have him ahead of Alvin Kamara and Jonathan Taylor, which I think is saying a lot. So, yeah, I still think, though, Etienne, though, his PPR upside is just so astronomically high. He's looked so good. I do think I would go Etienne. Paris Campbell or Thielen? I would go Thielen. I think ahead of Paris Campbell. They're playing the Cowboys in a dome. Paris Campbell, the Colts, are playing the Eagles. Yeah, I don't feel good about the Colts passing attack. The only Colts players I feel good about are Jonathan Taylor and Michael Pittman. I'm still like I was very bullish in Paris Campbell before the season. I actually had him on a ton of best ball teams. I thought he was going to be this year's Rashad Penny. I thought he was going to be this 99th percentile athlete that finally stays healthy for a stretch, and he kind of has. He's had some big games, but he still has a really low floor. He went under 4 points literally 2 weeks ago against the Pats. Obviously, that game was a crumbling for the Colts, and Matt Ryan being back, I do think bodes well for Paris Campbell, but not a great matchup, I don't think, against the Eagles. I do think I'd go Thielen over him, as bad as Thielen's been this season, too. Morning, Sam. Got a tough defense start sit for you. Jets defense versus Belichick off a bye, or Eagles run defense containing Jonathan. Yeah, you got to go Eagles defense, man. I know the Eagles run defense has been bad, and I do like JT a lot this week. I think JT gets 20-plus carries again. Pretty clearly, JT is going to be extremely involved in that Colts offense moving forward. But, yeah, you got to be targeting the Colts still, I think, over the Jets. Over the Pats. Even in what should be a windy game, yeah, you got to go the Eagles, man. I think you got to go Eagles. I was shocked that the spread was only 6.5 points. It's my favorite spread of the week. I think the Eagles blow the lid off the Colts. I think they're just so far better than the Colts. I think that the Eagles are a top 3 team in the NFL. I think the Colts are a bottom 3 team in the NFL still. Still have a bad offensive line. Still have a bad defense. Still have a really questionable coaching situation. I guess the defense hasn't been terrible. Their secondary has been really good. But I don't think their defense has any hope at stopping the Eagles offense. So, yeah, I do really like the Eagles in that game. Sam, did you see that Hackett is no longer calling plays for the Broncos? Brad, I did see this, man. I did see this. And, I mean, shout out Hackett. Like, you've been the worst coach in the NFL pretty clearly this season. And there's some bad coaches every year. But really, really early on, we could identify, and most people could identify that, yeah, Nathaniel Hackett, by far the worst coach in the NFL this season. And he still has his job. And good for him noticing that, I mean, he's been horrible offensive play caller this season. That's part of the reason I am rocking with Russ in my DraftKings lineup. I like the upside for Russ. I feel like the change of play caller gives him more upside too for the offense to just figure it out this week against a bad Raiders defense. That's why I'm stacking him with Sutton and I'm stacking him with Dolch because Judy's out and KJ Hamler's out and even Kendall Hinton might miss this week. So really concentrated target tree, I think, for the Broncos as well. So all those reasons, that's why I'm liking Russ, Sutton, and Dolch stack on DraftKings. There's a lot of good quarterbacks this week. Don't think many people are going to be playing this stack. I like running it back with Josh Jacobs too. I think Jacobs locked in for 20-plus touches. And even against a good Broncos defense, he has 30-plus point upside, one of the few running backs that has a workload that just makes that the case almost every single week. So, yeah, I did read that. And I am very interested to see if Sutton, Russ, and the offense just look generally better with the new play calling. Kyle Pitts or David Njoku? Obviously, we know there's a very low floor for Russ in the Broncos offense still. That's why I'm playing this in a tournament lineup, not a head-to-head lineup on DraftKings. Kyle Pitts or David Njoku? Yeah, I'm going Pitts over Njoku. Njoku was questionable all week for this game. I actually don't know if he's officially been ruled in yet. I think he is expected to play, but I still think Pitts is a higher ceiling than Njoku. D-Hop or Kamara at flex. You got to go Kamara over D-Hop with a hamstring injury for D-Hop. Pick 2, going to be a long week. Pacheco, Patterson, or Donald Mooney. Aiden, I like Pacheco a lot. He's got the number 2 best matchup for running backs this week. He gets the Chargers run defense. They've allowed the 2nd most yards per game to running backs this season. And Pacheco had a season high, career high 16 carries, 58% snap share last week. And he ran a season high 16 routes too. He didn't have any targets, but he was out there running routes way more than he had been in any other game. So yeah, I like Pacheco a lot. I would go down on Mooney over Cordell Patterson too. Cordell Patterson part of a 4-man rotation in the Falcons backfield. Swift or Myers. Yeah, I would go Jacoby Myers over Swift. I seen that one in the TikTok live. I'd go Jacoby Myers over Swift. As a reminder for everyone in the TikTok live, if you come to the YouTube live, link to that is in the TikTok bio. You can get my top 15 rankings, every single position, my DraftKings lineup, my player prop pick of the day, and all my picks against the spread, all for free, just right on the YouTube live. Link is right in the TikTok bio, right on your phone still. That's just a little bit better of a live viewing experience. And a lot of the stuff scrolling in the bottom of the screen in the YouTube live will just answer comments immediately, which is also helpful because I get a lot of comments between the YouTube and TikTok live. Do my best to answer all of them. But realistically, I won't be able to get to all of them. All right, need a QB. Goff, Stafford, McCoy, Brissett, or Pickett, full PPR. I mean, this is gross, man. I mean, fully a gross situation. You cannot go with McCoy because I think Kyler will play. Stafford is a disgusting option here as well, even in kind of a good matchup for Stafford. I believe. Let me pull up the matchup here. Yeah, they're playing the Saints. They've been okay in the secondary, not amazing. Their top corner is still out. Goff against the Giants, not something I want to do in a game that could have 30-mile-an-hour wind gusts. Brissett against the Bills, don't really feel great about that one. Honestly, I think the answer here is Kenny Pickett. I think the answer here is Kenny Pickett. I think I'll go Pickett in this gross start-sit question here. Fields or Jackson? I do have Fields ranked one spot ahead of Lamar Jackson this week. Paris, Myers, or Palmer pick 2. Yeah, you can't start Josh Palmer this week. Mike Williams and Keenan Allen expected to be back. You can't do it. You can't start Josh Palmer. The Josh Palmer stuff is over if both these guys are playing. And we won't know for sure until tonight. But we can't assume Josh Palmer is going to have this big workload with Mike Williams and Keenan Allen back. So yeah, I would bench Josh Palmer. Mariota or T-Law, I'll give 5-star. Yeah, thank you for the 5-star review in the iOS and Android App Store. Another way for free just to support me, help me out a lot. 5-star reviews go a long way. I like Mariota, more than Trevor Lawrence. I'm pretty sure Trevor Lawrence is on bye this week, which is why we haven't gotten any Christian Kirk, Travis Etienne questions, I believe, and why Travis Etienne's not in my top 15 rankings. Yeah, that would make sense. Yeah, so you got to go Mariota over Trevor Lawrence. That's an easy one, easiest one all day. Pittman or Tony? Yeah, I got Tony ranked ahead of Pittman. Again, if you come to the YouTube Live, link to that's in the TikTok bio. You can see my top 15 rankings every position, and I got my wide receivers up on the YouTube Live right now. And yeah, I have Kadarius Toney as a top 10 wide receiver option. He's number 10 for me, and I think I have Pittman right at number 11. So it's definitely close. It feels weird starting Tony over Pittman. It feels weird starting Tony over a lot of these guys. It feels weird starting Tony over DJ Moore. It feels weird starting Tony over Chris Olave. It feels weird starting Tony over Terry McLaurin. It feels weird starting Tony over Deebo Samuel, over Tyler Boyd. But I'm doing it over all those guys. I really like Tony a lot. There's no McCole Hardman. There's no Juju Smith-Schuster. High-scoring game against the Chargers. Tony set a season high snap percentage with the Chiefs last week. I think it was like 48% snap share for Kadarius Toney, and he still saw 5 targets, 3 carries, had almost 100 yards last week, and then with all these injuries this week, I expect that to continue. I think he has a really good chance at a TD as well in that McCole Hardman role. We've seen McCole Hardman score so many touchdowns this season. Plus with Juju out, I mean, just so much is going to bode well, I think, for Kadarius Toney. Why sit Pollard and Swift? Yeah, so Pollard is not a must bench anymore. I had him as a must bench, but I am removing him as a must bench. I can't change the photo in the background on the TikTok Live. But apparently there is, I think, did Ecuador already score? I think they did. Let me mute this. Yeah, the World Cup has started, guys, in 3 minutes in. Ecuador has scored against Qatar. It looks like that goalie could have pretty easily grabbed that ball, too. I didn't see the full play. I'm just seeing the replay in front of me right now. But, yeah, the World Cup did start. Ecuador up 1-0 against Qatar in Qatar. I can't believe the World Cup's in Qatar. You guys got to watch the Netflix series about how it ended up in Qatar. Absolutely insane shenanigans going on in FIFA. Who do I replace Kyler for this week? I like Marcus Mariota, Daniel Jones as some waiver wire guys this week. Let me pull my QB rankings. I have Kyler Murray ranked 14th this week. I do think he plays, though, so you don't necessarily need to replace him. But I have 13 guys ranked ahead of him this week, so Kyler definitely can be benched in this week for fantasy with the hamstring injury. Why sit Keenan? Because we haven't seen Keenan play a full game since like week 1, week 2. So you got to be benching Keenan, man. We haven't seen Keenan play a full game. Like, Keenan's supposed to play. Last time Keenan was supposed to play, he played about 1 quarter, tweaked his hamstring. He had, I think, close to 0 points in that game. Maybe he had 1 catch. That's the floor for Keenan now in this game this week. Yeah, last time he played was week 7. He was out there for 31% of the snaps. It only took 30% of the snaps for him to tweak his hammy. He had 2 catches, 11 yards, 3 points. That's the first time we've seen him since week 1. That was week 7. That was 3 or 4 weeks ago. And then he goes on a bye week and somehow tweaks his hammy during the bye week again. I don't know, man. It's been a really brutal season for Keenan. I hope he comes back. If Keenan plays the whole game, then I'll probably end up being wrong about this must bench, right? I'll probably be wrong. I'm mostly benching Keenan for his floor outcome here. His floor outcome with the hamstring injury. Why should I bench Allen Robinson? Because he has not separated all season, and I don't think he's going to benefit from increased defensive defensive priority with Cooper Kupp out. I don't think that's going to be good for Allen Robinson. DraftKings. I got you, Jarrett, with the DraftKings lineup. Let me pull it up. Pacheco or Najee? Yeah, I would go Pacheco over Najee. I do like Pacheco a lot this week. Why should I bench Allen Robinson? You got to bench Allen Robinson because he is not separated this whole season. He cannot separate. He has an extremely low floor. Even with Cooper Kupp out, Brown playing, I don't think Marquise Brown's going to play. But he might play. He's questionable. Marquise Brown is questionable. I'm not buying that he's playing this week, though. He's way ahead of the timeline I was expecting. But it does sound like he very much could play. Wait, I'm confused. I thought Ecuador scored. Why does it say 0-0? Did that goal not count? Is anybody watching this World Cup game right now? It says 0-0. I swear I just saw Ecuador score. Did they pay the ref to call that one off? I mean, what's going on? Williams confidence. Yeah, Jamal Williams confidence, I'm assuming you're asking about. I don't have a ton of confidence in him. I was wrong about having him as a must bench last week, though. So he's off the must bench list for now. I still think any given week, though, Swift could retake that backfield any given week for sure. Swift is still the more talented back in that backfield. Offsides, VAR offsides, they're saying in the TikTok live. I mean, that's crazy. We already got some conspiracy allegations, I'm sure, that I didn't see the full play. So I'm assuming the VAR was right, though. Usually the VAR is pretty good. Good morning, Sam. Happy Sunday. Who are you supporting this World Cup? And AJ Brown or Boyd? Thank you. I'm supporting the U.S. That's really the only soccer that I played soccer in college. I played soccer my entire life. I was the captain for 2.5 seasons at Ithaca College, Division III. I played outside back. I got promoted to forward my final year at Ithaca. I always loved playing soccer, though, way more than watching soccer. Watching soccer was actually kind of boring for me. Growing up, I would just much rather be playing. But international soccer is one thing that has always gotten me very excited. And it's the U.S. national team that I really follow the most closely. So I'm very much rooting for the United States in this World Cup. Sorry, let me get to your question here now, Jamal. And AJ Brown or Boyd? Thank you. You can't bench AJ Brown. As much as I like Boyd this week, you can't be benching AJ Brown. Pierce or Stevenson? I would lean towards Stevenson, I think, over Pierce. Let me pull this up. Actually, I think, yeah, the matchup for Pierce is definitely tougher. Yeah, I would go Stevenson over Pierce personally. But Pierce is one of these few guys locked into 20+ touches. I love the role Ramondre Stevenson has right now for the Pats. He's going to get 5+ catches in most games. He's seeing so many targets. He has the James White role on lock. So even if Damian Harris comes back this week, which he is back this week, and even if Damian Harris gets even half the carries, even half the goal line work, Ramondre's still going to have 10+ points in PPR leagues because he has the James White role. He's running 20+ routes almost every single game. He's at least 7 targets in 3 straight games. I mean, the dude is seeing a very significant target share. He's the 5th highest target rate in the league at running back. Brian Robinson or Pacheco? This one is really, this is a very good question this week because we got B-Rob, Joe. B-Rob's playing the worst run defense in the league, the Texans. They're dead last. But Pacheco's playing the 2nd worst run defense in the league. I personally like Pacheco's ceiling more than Brian Robinson as part of the Chiefs versus as part of the Commanders. I also think B-Rob's probably a slightly better bet to get more carries. B-Rob had 26 carries last game. Pacheco only had 16. But Pacheco looked really good, again, against this Chargers team. I think that game's going to be higher scoring. I lean towards Pacheco, but B-Rob is definitely an option over Pacheco and is also in just a really good matchup. But yeah, personally, I'm going Pacheco over B-Rob. Keenan Allen or Peoples-Jones? Yeah, I don't trust Keenan Allen this week. I'm not starting him. I want to see him play a full game before I start Keenan Allen. And also Donovan Peoples-Jones, low-key, like quietly, one of the most consistent receivers in fantasy. I think he's gone over 50 yards in 6 straight games. 6 straight games for Donovan Peoples-Jones. I mean, Drake London could never. Drake London could never go 6 straight games over 50 yards like Donovan Peoples-Jones can. All right, morning, Sam. Bench 1. Tony or Mike Williams? Enjoy football today. Thanks, man. Yeah, I would go Tony over Mike Williams. I'm not fading Mike Williams as hard as I'm fading Keenan Allen because, I mean, at least we've seen Mike Williams play this season. I think he can get through this ankle injury. I'm less confident that Keenan can get through this hamstring injury that's really bugged him since week 1. But I still like Kadarius Toney more than Mike Williams. I have Kadarius Toney as a top 10 receiver this week without Mecole Hardman and Juju in the lineup. Taylor or Sanders? You can't bench Jonathan Taylor. As much as I like Miles Sanders, you cannot bench JT. Coming off the workload JT had last week, you can't bench JT, even in what I expect to be a really tough matchup against the Eagles. Eagles' run defense has not been great So of late, last couple of games, they've been pretty torched, honestly, on the ground. And last week, guys, JT, 95% snap share for Jonathan Taylor. I mean, that was a career high. That was the most Jonathan Taylor has ever played in a game, ever. 95% of the snaps for Jonathan Taylor last week, 22 carries. He also ran 22 routes. That's more than the aforementioned Ramondre Stevenson, but he only had 2 targets. Number 1 running back, though, last week. You got to start JT. You got to start JT in all situations. Start 2, Keenan, DJ Moore, Foreman, Ayuk. Again, I'm benching Keenan. I got no faith in Keenan till he proves us otherwise, that he can play a full game in the NFL. You just can't trust Keenan. DJ Moore, Foreman, Ayuk. I think I would go DJ Moore and Ayuk. I'm nervous for Foreman against the Ravens. They're 12.5-point underdogs. That's not good for a guy that almost only exclusively gets carries, though he did have 31 carries last week. Tough to bench a guy that had 31 carries last week. Why is Pollard a must bench? He's not a must bench. He's not a must bench. I know I have Pollard as a must bench on the TikTok Live background, but we have since gotten a report from NFL Network that it is expected Pollard gets more touches than Zeke this week, and that's not what I was expecting when I put him as a must bench. So Pollard is a start over Zeke. I also think that Pollard is he definitely can be started over Cordero Patterson, for example. I would start Pollard over Keenan Allen. I'd start Pollard over Mike Williams, too. I think it's definitely close between him and Mike Williams. I would not start him over Pacheco. I think even Swift could be considered over Pollard, but I think I'd play Pollard over Swift, too. But not a must bench. Pollard is not a must bench now with this report, but he is in a tough matchup. The reason he was a must bench is I thought Zeke was going to come back at his normal workload of a little over half the carries. Doesn't sound like that's going to be the case. I think about a third or a half of the carries is like his peak for Zeke today. It sounds like they're going to ease him back in a little, but it's also not a good match for Pollard. So still, you got to be somewhat careful starting Tony Pollard. The Vikings have allowed the 3rd fewest yards per game to running backs this season. All right, Jared P. in the YouTube Live. Hey, Sam, Schultz or Thielen with an extra flex spot instead of a tight end. You don't start 2 tight ends, man. You just don't do it. Don't do it to yourself. I think Schultz projects better than Thielen. I'd still play Thielen over Schultz. Like the tight ends have been so brutal, man. Don't do it to yourself. Don't start 2 of them. Good morning. That Ecuador goal was prime Sam heading, even if it was called off. Swift, Jamal, or Hunt, half PPR. Thanks. Yeah, Danny Grease played soccer with me in high school. And one fun fact about me in soccer, even though I played defense, like I did not head the ball for pretty much ever because I had one really bad concussion in high school. So I basically just never headed the ball, and my coaches were just okay with it. Swift, Jamal, or Hunt. I think I would go Swift over Jamal and Hunt. Half PPR. Danny, it's been brutal with Jamal and Swift this season. Swift has not practiced fully, though, like he has this week, all year, really. So, like, he's getting in full practices. He's off the injury report. I still think he's really clearly significantly more talented than Jamal Williams. Guys, DeAndre Swift leads the NFL in yards per touch, 7.1 yards per touch this season. No running back is more efficient than DeAndre Swift this year. But the volume is just so capped so far that he's definitely risky. Jamal is safer than Swift, but I'm playing Swift for the ceiling here, and I'm not trusting Kareem Hunt. He has not been showing any real ceiling this season. I'm in a serious dilemma. Bye week got me down bad, but Josh Palmer, Darius Slayton, or Greg Dulcich at flex. God, man, I honestly think you do have to go Dulcich here. You can't start Josh Palmer with Mike Williams and Keenan Allen back. And Darius Slayton is like, he seems like he could be a good start, but then you also hear that there could be 25, 30 mile an hour wind gusts in that Giants-Lions game. And it's like, oh God, how is Darius Slayton going to get these deep targets from Daniel Jones with 30 mile an hour wind gusts? It's already tough enough to catch a Daniel Jones deep ball. So yeah, I think Greg Dulcich is a fine play over Darius Slayton and Josh Palmer this week. Pacheco, Ayuk, Swift, B-Rob at flex. Yes, it's between Pacheco and B-Rob. Both guys have top 2 matchups. B-Rob gets the best matchup against the Texans run defense. Pacheco gets the second best matchup against the Chargers run defense. I'm saying Pacheco over B-Rob personally. I'm just more bullish on the Chiefs offense than I am the Commanders offense. But B-Rob had 26 carries last week. Brian Robinson had 26 carries last week. That's a lot against the Texans run defense. If he gets that, he's probably going to outscore all these guys. But I'd like Pacheco more than Brian Robinson. And I do think that Antonio Gibson will still be very involved. Bye weeks and injuries hurting me. Pick one, Gallup. It's got to be Gallup, man. Gallup is a low-key, really high ceiling play this week. A really high ceiling play for Michael Gallup this week. The Vikings have been horrible against receivers. They've allowed the 2nd most yards per game to wide receivers this season. I just told you they allow the 3rd fewest yards per game to running backs. Pass funnel defense for the Vikings this season. Gallup has also quietly become an every down player for the Cowboys. He's played over 88% of the snaps each of his last 2 games. So you got to like that from Michael Gallup. I do think there's a real ceiling there for Michael Gallup, way more than Moreau and McBride. Thielen, Olave, or Mike Will. Yeah, you got to go Olave here. Sloan, 100% got to go Olave here for sure. I have Olave ranked a little bit worse than he's been ranked for me in the past. Number 12, though, still top 12 wide receiver, still a wide receiver 1, still a guy that you can start with a ton of confidence. Tony or Samuel, got to be Tony over Samuel. Lamar Jackson or Justin Fields, I'd go Fields over Lamar Jackson this week. Justin Fields has a chance to be the first quarterback in NFL history to have 3 straight games over 100 yards. Even Lamar Jackson, who I see as the best running quarterback of all time, has not done that in 3 straight games. Justin Fields could very much do that today against the Falcons. I like Lamar against the Panthers too, though. I have Lamar ranked number 4, Fields ranked number 3. I still would take Lamar rest of the season because his playoff fantasy schedule is unreal, but it's definitely close. Guys, we're live on YouTube and TikTok right now. On the YouTube live, you get my top 15 rankings, every single position, my picks against the spread, my DraftKings lineup, my player prop of the day, and much more on the YouTube live. Links in the TikTok bio. Free to join. All we need is a little bit more critical mass to come to the YouTube live, because the YouTube live is also, a lot of the comments I'm seeing on the TikTok live are just answered. Like literally just join the YouTube live, you just get it answered because you get my top 15 rankings every position. And a lot of times the questions I'm seeing are answered just within the what's on the information that's on the YouTube live. Morning, Sam. Curtis Samuel, Garrett Wilson. Yeah, I'd go Curtis Samuel over Garrett Wilson this week. I got no confidence in Garrett Wilson. There's going to be wind in that Patriots-Jets game too. I don't think Wilson does as good against the Pats as he did last time. I need a flex spot. Patterson, Gibson, or Williams. I'd go Gibson over Patterson and Williams this week. I would play Pacheco over Gibson and Patterson, though. Kenyon Drake or Pacheco. I would go Pacheco over Kenyon Drake. But Kenyon Drake is in a pretty good spot with Gus Edwards out. Yep, Gus Edwards I do think is going to be out. I don't think he's officially been ruled out yet. But he is... He is likely going to be out, so that's obviously big. Ecuador did score. Looks like Ecuador did score against Qatar. I did not see the goal. But I see that they're up 1-0 now. So Pollard is not a must bench anymore. Let me clarify here for those of you just joining the TikTok live. I did have Tony Pollard as a must bench when I started this live, but that was like 2.5 hours ago at this point. And since then, we've gotten a report that Pollard is expected to outtouch Zeke in Zeke's first game back. They're going to ease Zeke back in. That makes Zeke a must bench. Pollard's not a must bench, though. But the reason Pollard was a must bench is I didn't think Zeke was going to be eased back in. I thought he had a couple weeks off. Thought he was going to come back to over half the carries, but that doesn't sound like the case. But on top of that, this is not a good match for Pollard and Zeke. The Vikings have allowed the 3rd fewest yards per game to running backs this season. This is the 3rd toughest matchup for RBs. Now, I still think you can start Pollard with this report because we know Pollard's really efficient. And even in a tough matchup, he could easily score a touchdown, easily break a big play. But yeah, not a good match for Pollard. Definitely more risk with Pollard this week. And Zeke is back, so he's going to take some carries away from Pollard. Yo, Sam, how's it going? Could you pick 2? Ayuk, Mooney, Rondon Moore, Yarshma. It's going great, man. Great to see you back in the live football as well with you. The Rondon Moore stuff is tough. We got DeAndre Hopkins questionable. We got Marquise Brown questionable. We got Kyler Murray questionable, all for Monday night. My read is that Marquise Brown not going to play. Hopkins and Kyler will play. I think you can start Rondon Moore, though, and Darnell Mooney. Ayuk has been very good this season, and he's looked like the top receiver for the 49ers the last 2 games. But I'm not fully bought in on Ayuk the Bazooka this week in a game against the Arizona Cardinals. I think this could be a game where Deebo Samuel actually outplays Brandon Ayuk, which has not been the case each of the last 3-4 weeks even. But yeah, I do think I would go Rondon Moore and Darnell Mooney here, Yarshma. I don't know if Ayuk is going to stay this consistent. Alvin Kamara or Olave? Got to go Kamara over Olave. I'm not benching Alvin Kamara in any situations. Tony or McLaurin? I'd go Tony over McLaurin. Seeing that in the TikTok and YouTube live at the same time. But yeah, I would go Kadarius Toney over Scary Terry. Is Zeke playing? Zeke is playing, but apparently they're going to ease him back in. So Zeke is a must bench. Tony Pollard not a must bench anymore. I didn't think he was going to be eased back in. I thought he was going to go just right back to his normal playing status, but no. Sounds like Zeke's going to be eased back in, so that makes Zeke a must bench. Tony Pollard not a must bench, but I still think tough matchup for both guys. Tough matchup for both guys today against the Vikings, who have allowed the 3rd fewest yards per game to running backs this season. Pollard or Patterson? I would go Pollard over Patterson. I'm nervous for Patterson. It's a four-way committee. Four-way committee in this backfield for the Atlanta Falcons. All right, guys. We are at the point. We got like 40 minutes to an hour left in this stream. We've been about 2.5 hours in. We're about 2.5 hours in. It has been a fun stream so far, but we're getting to the most fun part of the stream. Guys, it's going to be a great football Sunday. I got a good feeling good vibes today, positive vibes today from the live. Good feeling about this football Sunday. A lot of good games to talk through on this stream. I'm really excited for the game tonight too, though, between the Chargers and the Chiefs. No Juju, no McCole Hardman. I'm very in on Kadarius Toney. Kadarius Toney is my free player prop this week, over 50.5 receiving yards. I think he goes closer to 100 total yards today, and that might involve some rushing too, because he's going to have the McCole Hardman role with McCole Hardman out. But yeah, in this game, I think it's going to be a high-scoring game against the Chargers. Some of these primetime games between the Chiefs and the Chargers have been nuts in years past. I think we could see another one like that today. Obviously, Travis Kelce's got to be really, really confident in Kelce this week against the Chargers too, with all these guys out. But Kadarius Toney looks like the most talented non-Kelce player on the Chiefs offense. Isaiah Pacheco is another guy I'm really bullish on against the Chargers run defense. Pacheco played 58% of the snaps last week. That's a career high for Pacheco. He also ran a career high 16 routes, and he also had a career high 16 carries. All those numbers, if all those numbers just stay exactly the same, the dude's popping off over 100 yards tonight against the Chargers' horrible run defense. As a Bears fan, I'd love to see Fields as a third QB. Was ranked 33 first couple of weeks. Yeah, I mean, for sure, Justin Fields has proved a lot of people wrong. And it's funny for me because I remember on draft day, I really wanted Fields over Mac Jones as a Patriots fan. Obviously, that felt like I was wrong last year and for the first half of this year, but now it feels like I might have been onto something there with Justin Fields over Mac Jones for the Patriots. But yeah, Justin Fields has a chance to be the only quarterback in NFL history. We've had some really good rushing QBs in NFL history to have 3 straight 100-yard rushing games. Still a big feat for him, even against a good matchup this week with the Falcons. Going to be tough for him to go over 100 yards again. People don't realize how infrequently quarterbacks rush for 100 yards. It's really infrequent. Lamar has by far the most 100-yard rushing games, by the way, and he's never done it 3 times in a row. Flex, Cordell Patterson, or Pollard. Yeah, I'd go Pollard. Over CPAT. Again, I'm nervous for CPAT in a 4-way committee backfield. Avery Williams is playing for the Falcons on third downs. Tyler Algier and Caleb Huntley are mixing in. I still think Cordell leads the backfield. I still think he starts. I still think he's the best running back in the backfield. But if he's only playing 30 to 40% of the snaps, really low floor, really low ceiling, I think, for Cordell. Why bench Swift? Because they just have not been giving him a full workload. They have not been giving him a full workload this season. He's practicing fully. He's off the injury report, but it feels like the coaches are still just scared he can't stay healthy. Why sit Pollard? I actually don't think you should sit Pollard. I had him as a must bench earlier in the stream when we started the stream, which was like 2.5 hours ago. But since then, we got a report that Pollard actually is expected to out-touch Zeke, and Zeke is going to be eased back in his first game. The reason I was nervous about Pollard is because I thought Zeke was going to get over half the carries, which does not sound like the case. But it's also a tough matchup for Pollard. I've got a TikTok live subscriber getting a question in here. Pacheco or Singletary for Big Pete Dog 13. Shout out to you for being a TikTok live subscriber. Another way you guys can support me is subscribing to one of the TikTok live subscriptions. But yeah, I would play Pacheco over Singletary. I would play Pacheco over Cordero Patterson. I'd play Pacheco over Tony Pollard. I'd play him over all these guys. I like Pacheco a lot. He's my number 15 running back this week in all formats. I like Pacheco. He also ran a season high routes last week. Do I drop Kupp with no IR? And also, who should I pick up? No, you can't drop Kupp. You just can't do it because if he comes back, he's a top 5 wide receiver. Why Pacheco must start? And should I start Michael Carter over Swift, or should I put Pacheco over him? I would start Pacheco over Michael Carter and Swift. And the reason Pacheco's a must start again, he had 16 carries last week. And he plays the Chargers this week, the second worst run defense in the NFL. So if he gets even close to 16 carries, if he gets 13 plus carries this week, which I think is very much in his range of outcomes, he could easily go over 100 yards, score a touchdown, and have some big plays in this game. So yeah, I like Pacheco a lot. The World Cup started, guys. Started about 25 minutes ago. Ecuador beating Qatar 1-0 in this game. I'll keep you guys updated throughout the live on that game. Ecuador actually scored in like the first 3 minutes, but they were offsides, according to the VAR, the virtual review system. Pacheco or Devontae or Ronda, I go Pacheco over all these guys. Again, I like Pacheco against the Chargers run defense. I'm going Muth over Komet. Let me pull up my tight end rankings again on the YouTube live. Again, if you're watching live on TikTok, come to the YouTube live. You'll see my top 15 rankings, every single position. Mark Cooper or Tyler Boyd, I would go Coop. Actually, I think I had Boyd over Coop. It's a good spot for Coop. He's coming off kind of a disappointing game, but it's a better spot for Boyd. And the Bengals passing attack today against the Steelers. Steelers secondary has been bad. Minka Fitzpatrick is back from appendicitis. He came back in like 3 days. I think that's a little bit of an exaggeration, but he came back really fast from appendicitis. Usually that's like a month-long injury or illness or ailment, I guess we could call it. But yeah, the Bengals are up against the Steelers. The Steelers have allowed the 3rd most yards per game to receivers this season. That's why I think Tyler Boyd just needs to be started in almost all situations. That's why I have Tyler Boyd as a top 15 wide receiver in fantasy football this week. Pacheco or Pickens, I'd go Pacheco over Pickens. Champions Gold sub, shout out to you, Sam. Trying one of the premium subscriptions in the WalterPicks app, number one way you could possibly support me in my career and in my brand is to check out the WalterPicks app. It's free to check out. And then to just test out one of the premium subs. And you also get a completely free 7-day trial with that. And you get a Black Friday sale right now for the year-long WalterPicks subscription. Again, that's in the iOS and Android app store. Links in the TikTok bio, YouTube description. A drop, Likely or James Cook in Dynasty to pick up a QB for the weeks battling for a playoff. So yeah, definitely. I'd probably drop Likely over James Cook. Actually, I don't know. They got Nyheim Hines. Like, both guys can definitely be dropped. Yeah, I think Likely can be dropped, though, more so than James Cook in a Dynasty league. Mark Andrews is not going anywhere anytime soon. So really tough to see Likely carving out like this every down trustworthy role for the foreseeable future. Thanks for answering my question, Sam. Have a great rest of your Sunday. Enjoy the games. Hope you and I win our match today. Thanks, Kyle. You as well. Brian Robinson or Pacheco? This is the question of the day. Brian Robinson versus Pacheco. Both guys have a fantastic matchup, right? We got Brian Robinson against the Texans, dead last run defense. We got Pacheco against the Chargers, second worst run defense. And both guys saw season high carry totals last week. Brian Robinson, 26 carries. Pacheco, 16 carries. I like Pacheco a little bit more than B-Rob, even though he had less carries last game, because I like the Chiefs more than the Commanders. But both guys definitely have legs and are startable this week. Hey, man, how's it going? It's going great, man. A very exciting Sunday. We got the World Cup starting. We got a lot of exciting NFL matchups. Live stream popping off. As always, been a fun live stream. Look forward to these all week. I got a whole nother hour or so ahead of us in this live stream. I got some of the important NFL news dropping. So it's been a great Sunday, man. It's going to continue to be a great Sunday. Start Brian Robinson or George Pickens. Yeah, I think Brian Robinson is just considerably safer than George Pickens. Again, Brian Robinson had 26 carries last week. If he gets 20 plus carries against the Texans, you're going to have wanted to start him. You're going to have wanted to start him. I think I said that right. James Conner, Dalvin Cook, got to go Dalvin. Daddy Azix, got to go Dalvin over James Cook. Again, guys, we're live on TikTok and YouTube. On the YouTube live, you get my top 15 rankings every single position and my DraftKings lineup and my picks against the spread and my favorite player prop of the day, which, by the way, is Kadarius Toney, over 50.5 receiving yards. If I can't get to your start sit, and let me catch my breath here for a second. If I can't get to your start sit, the best place to go is the WalterPicks app. We also have a Black Friday sale where the premium subscription is obnoxiously discounted down right now for Black Friday in the WalterPicks app. So if you're ever on the edge about the WalterPicks subscription, I mean, this is the cheapest you are ever going to get it. We got Ecuador beating Qatar 1-0 in the World Cup opener. Seems like Ecuador is kind of dominating the game overall. Very interesting World Cup this year, I guess, is an adjective you could use. If you guys haven't seen the Netflix series, I'm telling you, you got to watch the Netflix series about FIFA and why the World Cup's in Qatar this year. Sam, Mariota or Cousins, and Dalvin or Pierce. I would go Mariota over Cousins, and I would go Dalvin, I think, over Pierce. Let me pull up the rankings here really quick between the running backs, and I have Dameon Pierce ranked ahead of Dalvin. I don't know. I think I would go Dalvin over Pierce, though. It's not a good matchup for Dameon Pierce. The Commanders have ranked number 5 against running backs this season, but the workload is just so there for Dameon Pierce. Meanwhile, Dalvin Cook, he gets a much better matchup against the Cowboys. Yeah, I'm going to swap these two guys out here really quickly, adjusting on the fly. We're going to put Dalvin here. We're going to put Dameon Pierce here. I would go Dalvin over Dameon Pierce. Would you think Pacheco is going to get touchdowns, or is he splitting time with someone? Yeah, so Jerick McKinnon's going to play. He's splitting time with Jerick McKinnon, and I do think Clyde will play too. I think Clyde will play more than he played last week. He only played 4 snaps last week. Like, I'd be pretty surprised if he stays that low and basically doesn't play like every single game. But Pacheco is going to be the lead back, and yes, I do think he can get touchdowns. I do think he can definitely get touchdowns against the Chargers, and it could not even necessarily need to be goal line touchdowns. Like, I think he can rip some big runs against this Chargers run defense. So yeah, he absolutely could score a touchdown this week. Pacheco or Ayuk? I like Pacheco more than Ayuk. Why must you bench Marquise Brown? I literally don't think Marquise Brown's going to play. I'm on the side that think he's on the wrong side of questionable this week. Kmet or Dolch for tight end, and Toney or Montgomery for flex. I'd go Dolch over Kmet, and I'd go Toney over Montgomery for flex. I have Montgomery ranked really high too. I really like Toney this week. Monty's in a good spot too, though, against the Falcons. But yeah, I'm not benching Toney just in general. Hey, Sam, you might have seen my question Thursday, but who'd you start, Toney or Pacheco? Yeah, I would start Toney over Pacheco. I've thought about that one. I do like Toney just a little bit more than Pacheco. Let me get to this question here. Pick 2, Tony, Swift, Jamal. Yeah, if you're deciding between DeAndre Swift and Jamal Williams, personally, I'm playing DeAndre Swift because I'm someone that likes to take big risks for big rewards, and that's what Swift is. Jamal is absolutely safer than Swift, though. So if you're playing it safe, you go Jamal. If you're taking a risk, you go Swift. That's as close as I can get to answering that question. And then Tony, yeah, I'm starting Tony over Swift and Jamal. I'm starting Tony over Swift and Jamal. A full sub to the app. Thanks, man. Pick 2, full PPR, DJ Moore, you, Kenyon Drake, Swift. Oh, God, yeah, this one's tough, too. I think you bench Swift, though, in this one. Swift is, like, he just has a lot of risk. He has a lot of risk and much more risk than these guys. I think I would go DJ Moore and Kenyon Drake over Ayuk, Pacheco, or Debo. Oh, God, man. Here we are. I mean, it's week 11, and Debo Samuels is kind of a sketchy start. I mean, he's been out-targeted by Ayuk in, I think, 3 straight games now. He doesn't have a game with more than 10 touches this season. It has, at least since CMC has been around, I mean, he only has 2 catches in 2 of his last 4 games. Kind of a low floor for Debo. I still think he has a really high ceiling, though. And I think I would go Pacheco over Debo, but it's really close for sure. And I don't feel great about it. We got another goal for Ecuador, absolutely dominating Qatar. Another header. I mean, it just seems like these guys are just running free. I'm really only like clicking back and forth for these goals, like very quickly. But from what I've seen so far in this Ecuador and Qatar game, I mean, Ecuador's just running free in the box with wide open headers, and that's not going to go very well for Qatar. All right, pick 2, B-Rob, Thielen, Pickens, Pacheco. Yeah, I'd go B-Rob and Pacheco. I just go B-Rob and Pacheco. You get 2 running backs playing the 2 best possible matchups for running backs. I mean, you got to feel pretty good about that from a fantasy perspective. Oh, we got some TikTok Live subscribers asking some questions. Montgomery, Drake, or Foreman at Flex. By the way, if you're watching live on TikTok Live, doing the TikTok Live sub is the best way to get your question answered as fast as possible. And yeah, I think I would go Montgomery over Drake and over Foreman. With no Khalil Herbert, I do like the floor and ceiling for Montgomery a decent amount. Let me pull my running back. My running back rankings are up on the YouTube Live right now. Again, come to that from the TikTok bio. But yeah, I have Montgomery ranked number 11. Numero 11. Was that Nueve? Probably not. I'm bad at Spanish. Ndamukong Suh is active week 11 against the Colts. I mean, oh God. I mean, the Eagles are going to destroy the Colts. Mark Andrews is active week 11. Gus Edwards officially inactive. AJ Terrell, hamstring, active against the Bears. That's a pretty big ad for the Falcons. Bad news for Darnell Mooney and Chase Claypool there, and Justin Fields. I would say just overall that definitely downgrades Justin Fields a little bit with AJ Terrell being active for the first time in quite some time for the Falcons. Start Tony or Moore. Yeah, I do like Tony over Moore. There's a lot of Moores though. We've been through the Moores thing. There's a lot of Moores. You got to give first names with the Moores. But yeah, I do like Kadarius Toney over all the Moores. Hey Sam, Nico Collins, Devin Duvernay, or Paris Campbell. Yeah, I like Nico honestly the most here. Paris Campbell's been doing the best of late, but I like Nico the most. I'm just generally nervous for the Colts offense in this game. Again, I like the Eagles minus 6.5 a lot. That's my favorite play against the spread this week. Let me pull up my picks against the spread one more time on the YouTube Live. I have Bengals D, full PPR, Najee or Foreman. Greg or Pat? Greg Dulcich or Pat Freiermuth? Yeah, I would go. I think I would still go Najee over Foreman. I'm a little nervous for Foreman. He had 31 carries last week. Najee's not going to hit 31 carries. But I don't think Foreman's going to get nearly as many carries against the Ravens this week either. They're 12.5-point underdogs in this game. And Foreman isn't a very good pass catcher. I do like Muth over Dolch, but just slightly. Both are top 7 options for me at tight end this week. I don't really love starting Elijah Mitchell, seeing some Elijah Mitchell questions. Tony or Sutton? Yeah, I got Sutton ranked ahead of Tony. There's very few receivers I'm starting over Tony, but Sutton is one of them. I have Bengals D, full PPR, Najee or Foreman. Yeah, even if you're Bengals D, I'm okay. I'm okay playing Najee. I don't really love it, but I'm okay with it. Day, man, how we doing? I've been great. Hope you're doing well too. I traded Jalen Waddle, B-Rob for Pitts and JT. Like it. I like it. If you're going to give up Waddle, you better get someone good, and you did. And Jonathan Taylor, I kind of like buying low on Kyle Pitts a little bit too. Hey, Sam, Walter, subscriber. Love it. Happy PR, Mike Williams, Keenan, or Van Jefferson. Thanks for subscribing, man. I appreciate that. Yeah, I would go Mike. I don't trust Keenan at all. I don't really want much to do with Van Jefferson. I see some upside there with Cooper Kupp being out, but I really think Ben Skowronek is going to be the main benefactor there on top of Tyler Higbee. And yeah, I don't trust Keenan's hamstring as much as I trust Mike Williams' ankle. And like there's the analysis with Mike Williams and Keenan now. Like that's where we're at with these Chargers receivers. But that's That's how I'm thinking about it. I'm not trusting Keenan. We haven't seen Keenan really play since week 1. We have seen Mike Williams put up some good numbers, and it's a good matchup against the Chiefs. Pacheco or Boyd in the flex. I mean, both guys I like a lot. I have Pacheco is my number 15 running back. I have Boyd as my number 15 wide receiver. I think I would go Boyd, though. Honestly, I really like Boyd. And as much as I'm bullish on Pacheco this week, I mean, Boyd gets the Steelers. They've allowed the 3rd most yards per game to receivers. They're coming off the bye this week. I really like Boyd a lot with Jamar Chase still out. We do have some news coming in officially. Some official actives and inactives. Gus Edwards is officially out. Mark Andrews is officially in. Falcons cornerback A.J. Terrell and Eric Harris, 2 defensive backs, both active. A.J. Terrell has not been active for a while. Will be very interesting to see if the Falcons secondary looks a little bit better this week against Justin Fields. The Eagles have 2 new defensive tackles loading up for this game, Ndamukong Suh and Linval Joseph. That might not be great news for Jonathan Taylor and the entire Colts team. I'm very down on the Colts this week. I really think the Eagles, blow the lid off the Colts. I really feel like that spread should be higher. 6.5-point spread for the Eagles last I saw. I think that spread should be 10. That's the biggest discrepancy in my opinion this week. Officially active also, Lamar Jackson active. Mark Andrews active. David Njoku active. Devontae Parker active. Officially inactive again. Eno Benjamin's inactive this week. Gus Edwards inactive as well. That's good news for Kenyon Drake. Cameron Jordan is inactive for the Saints this week. First game he's ever missed. Non-COVID related miss for Cameron Jordan. A Drake or Foreman. Yeah, I like Kenyon Drake a little bit more than Foreman. I'd go Pollard over Devontae Smith. Is D-Hop going to play? I do think D-Hop's going to play. Fields or Lamar? I'm going Fields over Lamar, though I will say these added pieces in the secondary, they kind of make me want to change that. They kind of make me want to change my ranking and put Lamar over Fields. We got A.J. Terrell and another defensive back for the Falcons this week for the first time. Why bench Hollywood? I don't think Hollywood is going to play. So is Marquise Brown playing? He could play. He is questionable. I'm of the thinking that he's on the wrong side of questionable, but he did get some limited practices in this week, so he definitely could play. He's just so far ahead of his original timeline, that I don't think he's going to play this week, which is why you can't hold out hope for him on a Monday night. It's just too risky. But he did practice in Thursday's practice on a limited basis, so he could play. I'm just not fully confident in Marquise Brown's health yet. Same thing with Keenan Allen, why I'm not starting Keenan Allen. Hey, Sam Walter, subscriber. Thanks, Ricky. Pick 2, James Conner, Pacheco, D-Hop. Yeah, I think you got to go. I think I would go Pacheco and D-Hop here. Hey, Sam, good morning. Happy World Cup. Happy World Cup, Zach. We got Ecuador crushing Qatar right now. It seems like they're just running free. Header's just running free in the box from what I've seen from the 4 plays that I've seen so far. We got Pacheco, B-Rob, Singletary, James Conner, pick 3, all full PPR. Also, do we have DFS? Yeah, I'll pull up the DraftKings lineup in a second. I think if you're going to bench someone here, it's Singletary or Pacheco. You got to start Pacheco. Sorry, it's Singletary or James Conner. You got to start Pacheco and B-Rob. 2 great matchups for both those guys. I think if you're going to bench someone here, though, I am okay benching. I'm okay benching either Singletary or James Conner. I lean towards benching James Conner, even though he played a lot last week. 95% snap share for James Conner. That was second only behind Jonathan Taylor last week. But it's a really tough match because the number 1 run defense against the 49ers. They've ranked number 1 against running backs this season. So I think I'd bench James Conner. And then also, do we have DFS? Yep, I got you. Yo, we got Ken hyped in the YouTube live. What's up, bro? Happy Sunday. PPR pick 1, please. Miles Sanders, DJ Moore, Gabe Davis, Donovan Peoples-Jones. Yeah, I'd go with Miles Sanders. Again, I think the Eagles destroy the Colts today. The Colts have been a really good secondary against the pass, really bad defense against the run, though. They are one of these sneaky run funnel defenses. Let me pull up the DraftKings lineup again. No, someone asked for that on the YouTube live. Come to the YouTube live if you're watching live on TikTok to see my DraftKings lineup for today. And I'll talk through this in a second, too. All right, let's talk through this. So there's some very good quarterbacks on the slate today. We got Justin Fields against the Falcons, though. They have 2 of their starting defensive backs returning for this game. A little bit of a knock for Justin Fields, but he could easily be the first quarterback in NFL history to go over 100 yards in 3 straight games on the ground. So you got to consider Fields, but a lot of people are going to keep playing Fields as his streak stays hot. I do have him ranked number 3 this week, but I'm actually trotting out there with Russell Wilson over Jalen Hurts, over Justin Fields, over Lamar Jackson. A lot of these guys in some blow-up spots this week, over Joe Burrow, because I like the opportunity and the upside for Fields against this Raiders defense, and I like also the concentrated target share that I'm expecting for the Broncos that makes them very stackable. So I'm stacking Russ with Sutton and Greg Dulcich, and I'm running it back with Josh Jacobs. There's no Jerry Jeudy. There's no KJ Hamler. And Kendall Hinton, I don't think we've got an official status report on him yet, but he is also questionable in this game. So I am pretty nervous for starting Russell Wilson, but also I'm willing to take big risks in big tournaments. This is a tournament that I'm playing in here, not a cash game lineup here. I also like Elijah Moore as a really good sleeper this week. I'm buying into the hype of what the coaches have been saying in the last 2 weeks for the Jets, that Elijah Moore is out of the doghouse. He's going to go back to an 80% plus snap share. And there's going to be wind in this game. There's some wind in some games you got to be aware of in this week. We have the Patriots and the Jets in Foxborough. Could be wind gusts over 20 miles an hour in that game. Bad news for Garrett Wilson. I'd argue kind of good news for Elijah Moore if he's going to be playing every down in the slot. We have the Lions and the Giants. Wind gusts over 30 miles an hour potentially in that game. Good luck, Darius Slayton, catching a deep ball from Daniel Jones with 30 mile an hour wind gusts. We also have the Panthers and the Ravens playing in a game that could have 20 mile an hour wind gusts as well. That's definitely bad news for the pass catchers in all of those games. I also really like running the Texans defense against the Commanders. They're pretty low priced. They're my favorite low price defense of the week. A-Rob or GP in my flex. Who's GP? George Pickens? Yeah, I'd go George Pickens over A-Rob for sure. Jamal Williams or Pollard? I think I would go Pollard over Jamal. I know I see some comments in the TikTok live. Why bench Pollard? Why bench Pollard? Why bench Pollard? I actually changed my take on this. I wouldn't bench Pollard. That sounds like they're going to ease Zeke back in to his first game. And it does sound like Pollard's going to out-touch Zeke in this game. So I think Pollard can be started, but it's not a great matchup for Pollard. The Vikings have allowed the third fewest yards per game to running backs this entire season. So you got to be a little careful with Pollard, but I think he can be started over Jamal. I think he can be started over Zeke as well. Dolch or Njoku, I'd go Dolch over Njoku. Let me pull up my tight end rankings again. Hey, Sam, good luck this Sunday. Thanks, Marley. Good luck to you as well. Najee, Pollard, Pittman, Brian Robinson at flex. Choose one. And Knox or Hurst. Yeah, choosing one here. I think I would go Pittman. I'm assuming if this is a PPR league, I'd go Pittman. If it's not a PPR league, I'd go Brian Robinson. And then Knox or Hurst. Yeah, I got my tight end rankings up here. I go Knox. I go Knox over Hurst. I don't really love either of them, though. Lamar, Fields. Yeah, so like with these AJ Terrell news and the news that another starting defensive back is going to be back for the Falcons this week, I kind of want to say Lamar over Fields now. I've had Fields ranked ahead of Lamar this whole live stream. As this news is coming out, we got Lamar against a bad Panthers run defense. We got Fields, he's absolutely cooking, man. And the Falcons secondary still is going to be weak, but AJ Terrell is one of the best corners in the game, and he's been out for the Falcons most of the season. So him being back, I do think matters in this game. Corey Davis officially inactive this week. Mark Ingram officially inactive. Not that matters very much for anyone. Josh Reynolds, he's inactive. Khalif Raymond should be involved again. The Panthers have a couple secondary pieces that are active that could have missed this game as well. So yeah, I'm going Fields over Lamar still. I mean, I want to ride the hot hand with Fields, but it's really close, especially with these pieces for the Falcons coming back. All right, guys, we're heading into the witching hour of this live stream. This is truly when wins become losses and losses become wins in fantasy football. I missed your answer, Ken, man. You got to be better than that. We got to be better than that, Ken. Let's see. Ken, you got to send the comments again because I'm not going to be able to find it. Pick one Hopkins, DPJ, Nico Collins, Curtis Samuel, Keenan in full PPR. Yeah, I'm holding out hope for Hopkins here. I think he is going to play. I don't think Marquise Brown's going to play this week. I think that he's questionable to play. Like Marquise Brown could play. I don't see it happening. I don't see Marquise Brown playing this week. He's so far ahead of his timeline. I'm playing Pacheco over Swift. I'd play Elijah Mitchell over James Robinson and Kyron Williams. I want nothing to do with Kyron Williams, man. I want nothing to do with any of the Rams running backs. Warren or Swift. I'm playing Swift over Warren. Hawk or Dolch. I'm playing Hawk over Dolch. Jacoby Myers or Deontay Johnson. Love both them. Honestly, I think both have a pretty high floor. I actually like Deontay a tiny bit more than Jacoby Myers, though, this week. Deontay Johnson, Ayuk, Garrett Wilson, love the app. Thanks, man. Yeah, I would go with these first two guys. I get that Garrett Wilson probably projects pretty well this week. He's had back-to-back pretty good games, and one of those was against the Patriots. But with wind gusts up to 20 miles an hour in this Patriots game, it's very rare for the Pats to get beat the same way twice like they did. They got beat pretty bad by Garrett Wilson last time. Through the air, he had over 100 yards in that game. I'm not trusting Garrett Wilson this week. I'd go Deontay and Ayuk over Garrett Wilson. I start to – oh, I got you, Ken. Now I remember your question, Ken. My bad. Miles Sanders, DJ Moore. Yeah, I said Miles Sanders, Ken. I like Miles Sanders. I like the Eagles a lot in this game. They're 6.5-point favorites in this game. I think they should be 10+ point favorites in this game. It's my favorite spread of the day is the Eagles against the Colts. The Colts' run defense has been much worse than their pass defense this season too. And I think the Eagles, looking back at their last game against the Commanders, they'll notice that they really didn't go to Miles Sanders early enough in that game, and he played really well in the second half of that game. So yeah, I like Miles Sanders a lot against the Colts this week, and I like just the Eagles against the Colts a lot. The free player prop of the day, it is Kadarius Toney over 50.5 receiving yards. I do like Isaiah Pacheco a lot. I'm playing him over Cordell Patterson. I'm playing him over Kenyon Drake. I'm playing him over Brian Robinson. I'm playing him over Tony Pollard. I'm playing Isaiah Pacheco over a lot of guys this week, and it's because the Chargers' run defense has been horrible. They're second worst in the NFL. Isaiah Pacheco coming off a career high, season high, 58% snap share, 16 carries. And what if that gets a little greater this week? And that might be a little bit of wishful thinking. Maybe it's going to be more like another 50% snap share, another 15 carries for Pacheco. But if that's what he gets against the Chargers, I think he could easily clear 100 yards and score a touchdown in this game. He also ran a season high 16 routes last week despite having no targets. So yeah, I like Pacheco a lot. Good morning, Sam. Does not feel like morning for me anymore, Elijah. I've been up for like 6 to 8 hours, prepping for the stream, running through the stream. We're like 3 hours into the stream at this point. It's been a fun one, man. I picked 2: Gibson, Cooks, Curtis Samuel, and Pacheco. Yeah, I'd go Gibson and Pacheco. I'd bench Cooks and Curtis Samuel. I like Gibson this week with McKissick out again. A great match for Gibson against the Texans' run defense. Anytime you can play 2 running backs, playing the 2 worst run defenses, that's Gibson, Brian Robinson, Pacheco this week. You do it, man. You do it. You feel good about all of them. I'm playing Pacheco over Foreman. I'm playing Pacheco over Singletary. I'm playing Pacheco over Rondo Moore. Elijah Moore or Garrett Wilson. Yeah, so everybody's going to tell you Garrett Wilson over Elijah Moore. But I'm not everybody. And Garrett Wilson definitely projects better than Elijah Moore. But I'm buying the smoke that we've heard over the last 2 weeks about Elijah Moore. I think he's out of the doghouse. I think he's going to get 80% snap share this week. I think he sees at least 5 targets in the slot. And I think in this game that is going to have wind gusts over 20 miles an hour, that bodes well for Elijah Moore, more so than it does Garrett Wilson. So I won't be shocked if Garrett Wilson underperforms and Elijah Moore well overperforms what people are expecting this week. Najee or Swift? I'm going Najee over Swift. There's so much risk. There's so much risk with Swift before he starts playing his normal allotment of snaps. And we just don't know when that's going to happen. Devontae Smith or Mike Williams. Yeah, I think I would go Devontae Smith over Mike Williams, but it's close. It's really tough for me to get my head fully wrapped around like having full confidence in Mike Williams and Keenan Allen, who both I do think will play tonight in a good matchup against the Chiefs. But I feel better about Mike Williams than I do Keenan Allen. Is it bad to start Najee if I have Bengals defense? What about Deontay and DJ? It's not ideal to start a running back against your own defense, but sometimes it's still the right move. In this situation, it's close. I'm okay going Najee here, though, over these guys. Tony Boyd or Mike Williams. Yeah, so I have Tony ranked ahead of all of them. I think Tony over Boyd is reasonable. I like Boyd a lot. I have him as my number 15 receiver, but I have Tony as my number 10 receiver. This week, again, you got to start Tony. Olave, Debo, or Pickens. I'd bench Debo. I'd play Olave and Pickens. Patterson or Pacheco. I'd play Pacheco over Patterson. Why bench Pollard? Yeah, so Pollard actually is not a must bench anymore. I thought he was at the start of the stream. That's why he's still a must bench behind me. I haven't changed the background on the TikTok live, but we got a report that said Pollard's supposed to outtouch Zeke. So now Zeke is the must bench. Pollard can be started, but it's a tough matchup for both. Vikings have allowed the 3rd fewest yards per game to running backs this season. Slayton or Dulcich, or tell me no. Yeah, I don't trust Slayton at all. I would go Dulcich. I got a Jets Pats comment here. I wanted to read that one too. I don't think D-Hop's going to be out. Who you got winning, the Jets or the Patriots? Yeah, so I'm actually taking the Jets against the spread, a +3.5, but I do think the Pats win. But I think it's going to be a really close game that could easily go either way. So I like taking the Jets with the points. But I mean, the last game between the Pats and the Jets, really close. The Jets really should have won that game. This time the game's in Foxborough. There's also going to be 20+ mile an hour wind gusts in this Pats Jets game. So I think low scoring, close game that could go either way. I personally think the Pats win. They're really strong coming off the bye, but the Jets coming off the bye as well. They absolutely have a shot in this game, and I wouldn't be shocked to see the Jets win at all. So not very confident about the Pats this week overall, and I would take the Jets with the points if I was betting on this game. McKinnon or Latavius Murray. Yeah, you got to go McKinnon over Latavius. McKinnon's like low-key been playing a lot and kind of a big role for the Chiefs, and he could see a slightly bigger role this week too with Juju and McCole Hardman out. McKinnon's been by far the clear receiving back in this offense. He has 8 targets in each of his last 2 games. He's got 12 catches his last 2 games, over 10 points in each of those games, but he's not going to be the primary runner of the ball. He doesn't have a game with more than 5 carries since week 5. Pacheco is going to be the leading rusher, I think, for the Chiefs. I also think Clyde's going to be a little bit more involved this week, but I really like Pacheco against this bad Chargers run defense. Amari Cooper or Tony, full PPR. Yeah, I'd go Tony over Amari Cooper this week. It feels weird. I'm saying Tony over Pittman, Tony over Amari Cooper, Tony over a lot of these good receivers that we've come to trust week in and week out, but you got to trust Kadarius Toney this week. The ceiling is so high for Tony with McCole Hardman and Juju out. The dude could easily score multiple touchdowns. He could easily see his high snap share of the season with the Chiefs. He had 5 targets, 3 carries last week. That feels like his floor this week in what I think is going to be a high-scoring game against the Chargers. So, yeah, I really like Kadarius Toney. Guys, we got like 6 minutes left in this live stream before I'm wrapping up. Going to be wrapping up right at noon today. I have to wrap up a tiny bit earlier than usual this week. That's why we started the live stream a little bit earlier. You're going to clock in at right around 3 hour total on this live. It's been a lot of fun. But as a reminder, if I can't get your start sit, the best place to go for free is the TikTok bio and the YouTube description, and download the WalterPicks app, which I've spent the last 3 years of my life helping build. And it's going to help you answer all your start sits for free. You can do as many start sit comparisons as you want for free. Plus, there's a Black Friday sale going on right now for the premium subscription that lets you sync your league for unmatched fantasy insights. It's also like obnoxiously cheap right now with the Black Friday sale. So check that out. It comes with the 7-day free trial too. So not only are you going to get 33% off, you're also going to get a 7-day free trial. I mean, we're just giving it away for an egregiously low price right now. It's the number one way you can support me is just checking out the app. You don't need to do any of the premium subs if you don't want to, but that is the best place to go if I can't get to your start sit question, as always. But yeah, I'm playing Tony over Amari Cooper this week. Also, if you're watching live on TikTok for the last 5 minutes, you can come to the YouTube live and you can see my top 15 rankings, every position. Any news on Devontae? I do think Devontae's playing. I don't think we got an official report there. I think he might be in the later window. I'll try to get my top 15 rankings, every position up one more time on the YouTube live. Again, link to that's in the TikTok bio before we wrap up, and I'll get you as many start sits here, rapid fire at the end of the live as I can. Hey, Sam, I have been a Bengals. Oh, sorry. Hey, Sam, I have Bengals D. Full PPR. Foreman or Najee or Pacheco. Yeah, I'm going Pacheco over Foreman and Najee. Greg or Pat. I don't know about Pacheco for me because I'm already starting Tony and Bucker. It's fine, man. If there's a team to play multiple players from, it's the Chiefs. Throwing out multiple Chiefs players is only going to go well for you because if one of them doesn't go off, the other one's probably going absolutely off. Whether that's Kadarius Toney or Pacheco, I like starting both this week. And I like Pat Freiermuth just a little bit more than Greg Dolch. Let me pull up my tight end rankings here on the YouTube live. Again, link to that's right in the TikTok bio for my top 15 rankings every position. I'm playing Tony over Pacheco, though. If I'm deciding between two of them, I'm playing Tony over Pacheco. I feel a little bit more confident about his role than Pacheco. Sam, I'm in trouble. Heineke or Goff, and Curtis Samuel or George Pickens. Yeah, Quentin Craig, you are in trouble, man. And yeah, I think you can't go Goff. You can't go Goff against the Giants because there's going to be potentially 30-mile-an-hour wind gusts in that game. So I'd go Heineke against the Texans. And then I think I'd go George Pickens over Curtis Samuel. What's up, Sam? How we doing, Adrian, in the YouTube live? Kenyon, Sutton, Mooney, Mike Williams, Cooper, or Slayton? Yeah, I'd go Sutton. And I think I'd go Amari Cooper. I'd go Sutton and Amari Cooper here in this one. And I really like Sutton this week. No Jerry Jeudy. No KJ Hamler. We still haven't gotten a report on Kendall Hinton. I don't think yet. But Kendall Hinton, also questionable in this game. Let me pull up. I think that game is in the later window today. Yeah, it is. So we're not going to get those reports about Kendall Hinton. The Cowboys-Vikings later today. We got the Bengals-Steelers later today. Only 3 late window games. I think 6 or 7 early window games this week. Sutton or Debo? I'm playing Sutton over Debo. Let me pull up my wide receiver rankings one more time on the YouTube live. Debo or Sanders? Yeah, I'd go Sanders over Debo. Why bench Allen Robinson? Because the dude has not separated all season. He has no ceiling. There's no true ceiling for Allen Robinson. Even with Cooper Kupp out, I'm not seeing a real ceiling for Allen Robinson. I think Tyler Higbee and Ben Skowronek benefit the most from the Cooper Kupp injury. And I honestly won't be surprised if Ben Skowronek, Van Jefferson, so some of these completely dusted running backs outscore Allen Robinson. Like, that's how low of a floor Allen Robinson has. You can easily go under 6 points, and nobody's going to be very shocked. Even with Cooper Kupp out, I won't be shocked. I just think the floor is too low for a ceiling that's also kind of low for Allen Robinson. I want nothing to do with him, man. Swift or Drake? Drake is just way safer. He's way safer than Swift. You got to go Drake. Swift has a really, really high ceiling. Super wide range of outcomes again for DeAndre Swift this week. We just don't know if he's going to see his full allotment of snaps. He's played 30% of the snaps last week. Like, it's probably going to be something close to that again this week. I'm playing Foreman over Cordero Patterson. Hey, Sam, last minute. Cooks or Slayton full PPR. I do not trust Darius Slayton. Again, this Giants-Lions game, it should bode well for Daniel Jones. The Lions defense has been terrible. It should bode well for Darius Slayton with Wan'Dale also dealing with a hamstring injury, but 30-plus mile-an-hour wind gusts, trying to catch a deep ball from Daniel Jones with 30-mile-an-hour wind gusts, like, good luck to anyone trying to do that, including Darius Slayton. Why is Pollard a must-bench on the TikTok Live? So, Yona, the reason he was a must-bench on the TikTok Live, a good question here for the TikTok Live people, is I thought Zeke was going to come back this week, which he is coming back this week. I thought he was going to be fully there and getting his normal usage. I thought he was going to get over half the carries. But we got a report since then, since I started this live about 3 hours ago, that actually isn't the case. Zeke is going to be back, but it sounds like they're going to ease Zeke back in, and he's not going to see his normal allotment of snaps and carries, and that Tony Pollard's still going to out-touch Zeke. So Zeke is a must-bench. Tony Pollard, not a must-bench. But the reason he was a must-bench before is I thought Zeke was going to get more carries. But on top of all of that, they also have a really tough running back matchup this week. The Vikings have allowed the third fewest running back yards per game to running backs this season. So that's a whole nother reason to be nervous for Tony Pollard. But again, the fact that I know or am confident based on this NFL Network report that Pollard's going to out-touch Zeke, that I am okay starting Pollard in some spots. I don't think he's a must-bench. Like, I still would play Brian Robinson over him, though. B-Rob could see 20-plus carries against the Texans. Who should I start? Rondale Moore, Gabe Davis, or Devontae Smith? Yeah, I'm going Gabe Davis here. I think he has by far the highest ceiling of all these guys. Why bench Keenan? I don't trust Keenan's ability to play through a full NFL game because we haven't seen it since week 1 of this season. If he plays the whole game, I'm going to end up being wrong about this must bench. I don't have personally that much confidence to see Keenan play fully healthy through a whole game, like for a full workload. But if he does against the Chiefs, he's a solid wide receiver too. So really high risk, high reward, though I think with Keenan Allen. Excuse me. Would you say Tony Pollard over Cordero? Yeah, I would play Tony Pollard over Cordero Patterson with this report about Zeke. Okay. Bless you. Thank you. Honestly, thank you. TikTok Live, YouTube Live. For the quick bless yous, always fun. Always fun sneezing on live. Allen Robinson or Keenan Allen. Oh God, I want nothing to do with either of these guys, but A-Rob's absolutely safer than Keenan, in my opinion. I would play A-Rob over Keenan. Do you think Adams will play? Yeah, I do think Devontae Adams will play. Why Pacheco? Because he's playing the Chargers. The Chargers have ranked second worst run defense in the NFL this season, and Pacheco had 16 carries, season high percentage of snaps. Sam, I just woke up, and I have a bunch of questions. Andrew, man, your last name is early. You are not early to the live. We are just wrapping up the live over the next few minutes. Any bad weather? Yes, there is bad weather. Let me run through the bad weather really quickly. Bad weather in the Patriots-Jets game. Wind gusts over 20 miles an hour in that game in New England. That's not good news for Zach Wilson, not good news for Garrett Wilson, not good news for Mac Jones. We also have the worst weather game between the Lions and the Giants. Wind gusts over 30 miles an hour in that game. Sustained winds around 17 miles an hour. Bad news for Darius Slayton. Bad news for Daniel Jones. And I still think you need to start Amon-Ra St. Brown, but it's not good news for Amon-Ra St. Brown either. Last but not least, the Panthers and the Ravens. They have a game with wind gusts over 20 miles an hour in this week too. Sustained winds at 16 miles an hour. Bad news for Baker Mayfield in his first start. Bad news for DJ Moore, Terrace Marshall, and even Mark Andrews. I think you can include in that list, but Mark Andrews still must start. DJ Moore still startable against the secondary. All of the passing games in those 3 games I just mentioned, they still will be able to move the ball a little bit in these games. It's not sustained winds over 25 miles an hour. That would be a full-fledged do not start any of these guys. Still the elite options in these offenses you got to start. But I think generally speaking, it helps the guys whose catches are closer to the line of scrimmage than the guys that are further down the field. Because with wind gusts up to 20, 30 miles an hour, it's really tough to throw the deep ball in the NFL. So that's why I'm also kind of bullish on Elijah Moore over Garrett Wilson this week. All right, Pitts or Schultz? I'm going Schultz over Pitts this week. Just slightly. I have Schultz one spot ahead of Kyle Pitts in my rankings. I think both have similar ceilings, but Schultz's floor feels a little bit better. Kyler, Danny Dimes, Russ, or Carr? Yeah, so I have Danny Dimes ranked ahead of Russ, but honestly, the ceiling for Russ is higher than Danny Dimes, especially given that weather report I just gave. I'm okay going Russ over Danny Dimes. And then Deontay or Cooks, I'm going Deontay over Cooks all day long. Yo, Sam, pick 2. Pollard, Jamal Williams, Najee, Kenyon Drake. Picking 2 here. I still feel like Kenyon Drake against the Panthers is a really good spot. Again, given that wind, too, I feel like Kenyon Drake could go 15-plus carries against a bad Panthers run defense. It's not that long ago. We just saw Joe Mixon, just completely destroy this Panthers run defense. And then between Jamal, Najee, Pollard, that one's really close, too. I honestly feel like Najee's probably the safest bet, but Pollard's probably the guy I would go with. I don't feel great about the ceiling for Najee. He doesn't have a ceiling. He has no true ceiling. So Pollard's ceiling's probably a little better. Could you put your QB rankings on the board? Yeah, I'll pull up the QBs. One last time here on the live. Tony Pacheco or Montgomery. I would rank those guys probably as Tony number 1, Montgomery number 2, Pacheco number 3. I do really like Tony again. I feel like Tony's just a really, really safe bet for a really big role for the Chiefs in what should be a high-scoring game against the Chargers. So, yeah, I feel really good just overall about that one. Looks like the second half is going to kick off soon for the first World Cup game. Hopefully I'll catch that second half as I'm setting my own lineups over the next hour or so. Yo, Sam, need your help. Garrett Wilson, Najee, or Deontay for my flex. Need some help. Yeah, I'd go Deontay over Najee. I'd go Deontay over Garrett Wilson, too. I want nothing to do with Garrett Wilson this week. Again, with the wind and up against the Patriots coming off the bye, I do not want Garrett Wilson this week. Boyd or Tony. I have Tony ahead of Boyd, but I have Boyd ranked top 15 also. Yo, Sam, at the flex, Olave, Rondale, DJ Moore. Got to be Olave. Got to go Olave, man. Almost always, you got to trust Olave. I know he's been down the last few weeks, but I do think it could be a bounce-back game for Chris Olave. I'm playing Jacoby Myers over Dulcich. I don't care about the wind. I'm not starting a tight end over Jacoby Myers. Brian Robinson or Kyron Williams. I'd go B-Rob over Kyron. I am removing Tony Pollard from my must-bench list. If you're watching live on TikTok, I know he's still on there, but I had this up literally 3 hours ago. I have not changed it since that report that said Tony Pollard's going to out-touch Zeke, likely this week from NFL Network. Sounds like they have some sort of insider knowledge there with the Zeke-Pollard situation. Sounds like Zeke's going to be eased back in, whereas Pollard is going to still see the bulk of the snaps and touches for the Cowboys. It's a tough matchup for Pollard and Zeke, though. The Vikings have allowed the 3rd fewest yards per game to running back, so I'm a little off of Pollard still, but he can be started. He's not a must bench with that, given that report. What is saffron and why is it so expensive? I don't know what that means. Rondo Moore or David Montgomery? Rondo Moore or David Montgomery? I'd go David Montgomery over Rondale Moore. Saffron. What is saffron? Spice? I don't know, man. I got to look more into the saffron stuff before giving a real answer to that. Trade Evans for T and Terry. Yeah, I would do this. I think T. Higgins, Evans are pretty comparable. What's up, Sam? Pick 2, Debo, Garrett Wilson, Foreman, Gibson. Thanks. Yeah, I'd go Gibson for sure here. And then I think I'd go Debo over Foreman and Garrett Wilson. It's Foreman or Debo, though. I don't trust Garrett Wilson this week against the Pats in a windy game. That's my time, guys. I'm going to be wrapping up the live in just a moment here. But as a reminder, the free player prop pick of the day, it's Kadarius Toney over 50.5 receiving yards. My favorite spread of the day is the Eagles minus 6.5. I do have the DraftKings lineup up on the YouTube live right now. If I didn't get to your start sit, guys, the best place to go. It's the WalterPicks app. It's in the YouTube bio. It's in the YouTube description. It's in the TikTok bio. It's on the iOS and Android app store, free to download. You can do as many start sit comparisons as you want. We also have a Black Friday sale running right now. It's the cheapest. You can get access to the premium subscriptions in the WalterPicks app, which are completely optional and come with a 7-day free trial as well. But again, you're going to get projections, boom bust probability, matchup ratings, everything for free in the WalterPicks app on the iOS and Android app store. So check that out. Best way you could possibly support me. Guys, time is the most valuable thing we have. Thank you so much for spending some time with me today. Good luck today. And I will be back live, as always, Thursday night, Sunday mornings. Make sure you hit that follow and subscribe button so you don't miss out. Guys, good luck today. And I will be back very, very soon.